Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sunday show After Dark.
Yay.
I am so fucking excited, dude. Okay, Eve, I think we met, it has to have been like 2 years ago now or something like that at the American
Maybe
Atheist.
even more. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
We were like hanging out in the bathroom. I was like, please tell me what to wear right now. I was
Yes.
having a wardrobe crisis and you were so helpful.
It's so we've known each other for all this time, but we haven't gotten to do a show. I've produced like
I know.
half the shows. Well, okay, Morgan does Chewed Gum, but like all the other shows you were on, I was producing for all that time. We've never gotten to host together, so I'm so excited.
I know. Same. I feel the same. I know it's weird. And we've like been on vacations together and not actually done this work together, which is like how we know each other exists. But
yeah,
I'm honored to be hanging out with you here. And now we can show our friendship off to everyone.
Yes, I'm so excited. Okay, so the number is 720-619-2288, and there's also a web link in the description if you aren't in the US and don't want any of those nasty toll bills. Call in. We've got open lines. We are talking to anyone about theism and atheism today. If you absolutely have to call in about gender, I'll take it. But like, please, God, give me something atheist related to talk about today. I'm going to scream. So Eve, what's going on? Tell me about your life. What's up?
I'm getting ready to leave for the summer. I'm going to be in Europe all summer. So my life is kind of revolving around that. We've been doing yard work, which is really exciting. The cicadas are horrific. So like right now I can still hear them. They were at like 85 decibels or something earlier, which is
oh my God,
wild. So I feel like I'm calming down from that chaos all week. But yeah, other than that, just same old. Also, I will say, in case anybody's watching that this relates to, I've had so many theists in my comment section this week telling me that I'm afraid to engage with them, and that's why I won't respond. And I have invited all of them personally to give us a call, and we can have a chat, and you can see how scared I am to engage. I am happy to have a conversation. If you're a theist and you've been up in my Instagram comments, now's your time. So anyways, how have you been? What's new with you? What's your weekend been like?
Things are good. We've been doing a lot of spring cleaning. So we bought like a bunch of new like shelving units, and we're kind of rearranging like our entire house and garage. So everything's kind of chaotic right now because, you have to like pull everything down and resort it before it's finished. That's been like several days in, but we're getting there, and it's starting to come together in a way that I'm really excited about. So that's cool. But yeah, I know there've been a couple of people who were in chat at like the end of the last show. Same thing, if you want a big platform with which to potentially make us look foolish and show us how much more you know than we do, now is the time. You can call in to that number in the description or the web link. We would love to talk to you. There are a couple of calls on the line, but before we get to them, I want to go through our announcements for the shows coming up over the next week. Tomorrow on Skeptalk, we have Shannon Q and Erika Gibbon. So that's going to be so awesome. I'm really excited to see them together.
Like a really good show.
Right. Tuesday, we've got Eve and Alyssa on Chewed Gum. So that's going to be amazing. As always, been loving that show so much. You guys are great together.
Thank you. And it's my last episode for at least a few weeks because I'll be traveling. I'll be getting to Europe and then figuring out my Wi-Fi situation. So I hope everyone will come hang out while I am still there.
Yes, please do. I think I'm actually going to be filling in one of those episodes. That's cool because I've never really talked to Alyssa. So we'll see how we go together.
That's so fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. Wednesday on the Hang Up, Matt's going to be with David Fitzgerald. So that'll be really exciting. It's going to be myself and Josie on TACIS on Thursday. Next Sunday, the early show will be Forrest Valkai and Eric from Skeptics and Scoundrels. Then After Dark will be Paulogia and Gleason. So Most of those events are already up and scheduled, so go hit those notification bells if there's one that you don't want to miss. But until then, we have some callers on the line. Let's talk to Sean, somewhere in the US. Pronouns are they, them. Has a question about adult content in some regard. So we're going to see how this goes. Sean, I beg of you before you start to please be careful with our monetization. But go ahead. Oh, are you there? My bad. Should be live.
Hello?
Yeah.
There we go.
There we
Okay,
go.
cool.
Hello?
Hi, what's up, Sean?
I'm calling about addiction to porn and versus attachment to porn. More on the side of attachment. More on the side of attachment.
What do you mean by attachment? Can you define that?
This watching the same video over and over again. And imagining that I know the person in there I'm in a relationship with them. But I have watched similar things like around ages around recently to like 20 to 30 years ago.
So just to start, Sean, I'm a little confused at exactly what you want us.
Right.
So,
what's the question? Are you just calling to announce this, or what's the deal?
right. Like, we're not specialists in this, and this is a show about theism. So can you help me tie it all together? Like, what is the goal here?
All
right. If you don't have a goal, that's okay. I don't want to crush your spirit, but I would like to stay on topic if at all possible. So maybe call back in with another topic. I don't really see how this is relating to the topic of the show, and like, even if it's not, like, what could we do about it, you know?
Right. And if you have a specific question, if you can turn this into an actual question, Alyssa is the co-host for Chewed Gum on Tuesday nights, and she is actually a sex coach, and she's actually educated on a lot of this. I don't know what exactly it is that you're calling in for, but maybe if you can turn it into a question, you could call back on Tuesday night, and Alyssa could help you out with that.
Yeah, I tried to call in with another question like that night, but it's more like I'm attached to a specific video over and over again, and
so Sean, I think I'm just gonna
more like
reiterate,
worship.
Sean.
It's more like worship, and
okay, Sean. Yeah, I'm just gonna reiterate. You got to take this to another show, man. This is not the place for it. There's nothing wrong with like enjoying content. You know, faff to your heart's content for all I care. But yeah, this is not the place for it, and we're not really the host for it. So have a wonderful night, but we'll talk to you another time. Wow. We're off to a stellar start.
Yep, this is great. Come on, Theus. There's got to call in with an actual, either an assertion or a question, something. We're excited to talk to you guys about that.
Yeah. I do see one theist on the line. Let's pull in Karen. Pronouns are they, them, from the UK. Karen, you are live on the line. What's going on? Talk to us. You want to talk about the Holy Spirit.
Hey, Karen.
Karen, are you there? Did you mute the phone?
This is a really exciting night so far.
I know. This kind of happened last. Oh,
there we go.
Are you there, Karen?
Hello? Do you hear me?
Hello. Yes.
Hi, Karen.
What's going on?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, so are you guys both former Christians?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So my assertion is that if you were ever filled with the Holy Spirit, you would have never left the religion.
Cool. So I believed that I was filled with the Holy Spirit when I was a Christian, but I don't think there's any evidence of anyone ever having been filled with the Holy Spirit, whatever that is supposed to mean. I also don't think there's evidence that the Holy Spirit exists at all. So I think people have been convinced, or they've credited certain experiences to the idea that they've been, quote, filled with the Holy Spirit. But you would have to take that assertion and then give me a reason why you believe the Holy Spirit exists, nonetheless can, quote, fill someone.
Well, yeah, this is based off of the testimony of millions of people across the world.
Sure, but does the amount of people who testify to something, does that say anything about whether or not it's true?
I think so, yes.
Well, you're wrong. It's literally a logical fallacy. So you may be
How's
in
that
fact
fallacy?
right, because the amount of people who believe something doesn't necessarily say anything about whether it's true. There's lots of things that people have
Well, that
believed
means
before we had. There's lots of things that people believed before we had the scientific evidence to know otherwise. That now that we know,
Yes.
those things weren't true back then. Those people were wrong about that, even though the majority of people may have believed something.
Right. And
Yeah,
there's
so
millions of
that might
people
not
that
make
have
it
had
true.
experiences like mine that say they don't believe it's true. So we have to look at other evidence aside from personal testimony.
Well, I don't think you've been actually filled with the Holy Spirit, because you, like I said, you wouldn't have
I don't
watched
think
it.
I have
You would have
either.
actually.
I don't think I have either. I don't
Yeah,
think anyone has been.
exactly. So, well, that's the thing. You can talk to people that have been filled with it, and actually people that can speak in tongues.
I can speak in tongues.
Yeah, I went to a church where people spoke in tongues. I don't really
Okay,
see what that
so-
has to do with the truth of whether or not they were actually filled with the Holy Spirit.
Well, that means that's an indication that they're saved,
How do you know that?
because that's literally in the Bible.
Okay. Why should we care what's in the Bible?
Because the Apostle Paul had a vision from Jesus where he was told these things. So,
How do you know
yes, you
that's
do need
true?
to be filled with the Holy Spirit to be saved. Because that's what church tradition tells us.
Right.
Sure.
And how do you know that that's true?
Well, how do you know that anything around you is true?
I love it. So when you ask
What do
theists to
what did
demonstrate
they
their
say?
point and they punt to solipsism, that's what's happening right now.
Okay. I don't think it's going anymore. You guys have a good night. I appreciate the call.
Okay.
Oh.
Bye, Karen.
Well,
Well,
that
this
was
is an
quick.
eventful night.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
you go ahead. I don't have really anything to say to that. I'm kind of speechless.
Yeah, no, it's just I really like having honest conversations where people don't
Me
necessarily
too.
agree with me, but like can receive information and be like, okay, I haven't thought about that, but what about this? And there can be a dialogue, a back and forth. When somebody would just rather assert what I actually have done or what I actually believe when they have no access to my mind, it feels boring and kind of weird, and I don't really know what to do with callers like that. So hopefully we can wrangle in some theists who are more interested in actually having a dialogue tonight.
I agree. Yeah, that would be really nice.
All right. We've got another theist on the line. I just want to remind you guys, lines are open. We have open lines right now. So theists get priority in the queue. If you're a theist, you'll get picked. You are like bumped to the top above atheists in the queue. So we're going to talk to Cody in Georgia. Pronouns are he, him. Cody, you are live on the line. What's going on?
Hey, Cody.
Hey. How you?
Doing all
So
right.
I was wondering if we can
Sorry,
a little
go
bit
ahead.
different. Is there any way y'all can ask me questions?
We will ask you questions
Pertaining
as soon
to-
as soon as you tell us your thing. Yeah.
Just your concerns with religion.
Well,
Any and all
that-
religions.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't know where we would even begin, because I can give you my number one concern with religion. I don't see evidence to believe any religion that's been presented to me, as far as ones that concern deities. So I need evidence of a
Understand.
God in order to believe a religion.
What
Yeah,
would you say your opinion on Buddhism?
go ahead. Sorry.
Do you have any particular stance on Buddhism? Reincarnation cycles and whatnot? Enlightenment?
Well,
different dimensions.
see, I mean, this is the problem. You're like, oh, do you have thoughts on Buddhism, reincarnate? Like, I have thoughts on all of
those are all different things. Yeah.
right. They're all completely different things. And like, sure, some Buddhists believe in reincarnation, but there are also lots of atheist Buddhists. I don't personally subscribe to Buddhism. I don't know if I have thoughts on Buddhism in and of itself. It's also not really the point of the show. The point of the show is
Right.
really where you're trying to tell us what you believe and why, and we can like evaluate the veracity of like the claims that you're making. So I don't
We
know
would
what you
spend
believe.
all night sitting here talking about things that we do or don't believe.
Buddhism, Christianity, polytheism within like the Norse structure, in Hinduism, basically everything kind of collaborates. It's just subjective preferences based upon where you're born, really, and what you're raised to believe. There's a larger dark matter structure with that and around us in our surrounding world.
But
we don't
Cody,
see.
Hey Cody, I'm more interested in what is it that you believe and why do you believe that? Can you provide that for us? And that would be a great phone call, I think, if we can engage back and forth on that.
Yes, the universe is intrinsically aware. Like there's a literal awareness of the foundation of everything around us. And through that foundation, we can actually relate that to what we call God. I know some people won't want to call that God because they have a preference. But if you actually look into it a little bit deeper, you can see that everybody's worshiping something or looking at something, looking for something. And there's obviously a large dynamic universe around us just waiting to be understood. And everybody just has their belief system surrounding it. And it's all subjective. I mean, you can take a scientific approach.
So Cody, hey Cody, you're saying a lot of like obviously and words that I don't agree, obviously. So I'd rather you just answer like the specific question of what do you believe, like what God or gods do you believe in? And then we can go with the why.
Well, I could say Lord Yeshua or Jesus Christ. He was a legitimate person. You can look at him historically.
So wait, hold on. I have a problem with how you even phrased that, Cody. You said we could say. Are you proposing that we just debate Jesus hypothetically, or do you actually believe Jesus Christ exists and was like the Son of God and died on the cross for your sins and all those good things?
Well, I'm sure Christianity gets a lot wrong. The Bible, it's not foolproof.
That's not what I asked. Can you answer the question I asked?
Can you answer her question, please?
Jesus Christ. I mean, Yeshua isn't really debatable here. He's a little historical figure, just as much as any ancient person.
He's very debatable. That's why I hope that's why you called.
Well, I mean, I regularly have debates in your channel, Eve, and it's Justin Collins. So
awesome.
Yeah,
I'm glad
I could talk about it.
Okay,
Right.
so you believe in Jesus. You believe in Jesus as do you believe in Jesus like as Jesus is God of the universe?
Well, he's an incarnation of consciousness, just like we all are. He was just evolved to a higher extent.
So, Cody, it's really frustrating to talk to someone when you ask them a direct question and they answer a totally different question that wasn't asked at all.
It wasn't exactly a straw man. That was, relatable.
I see what you just said doesn't even make sense in response to what I said, where I don't actually know what to say to you now because I don't know where I literally don't know what you're talking about.
I'll answer any question you have.
Okay. Eve, do you want to ask again?
Sure. Do you believe that Jesus Christ from the Bible is a God?
It's weird to say. I consider him a person of evolved consciousness, an incarnation of it. And he probably comes from a very substantial reincarnation line.
Okay. Do you believe that there is a God?
I believe the universe is aware. And you could call that God.
Okay, so let's define aware. And you're not answering my question still. So I'm confused as to why you're skirting around it. Because either you believe that the universe is God or you don't. Or you believe that there is a God of the universe or you don't.
I had this crazy revelation that souls actually exist. I used not to believe in souls.
So you believe that let's go. Maybe this is where we go. You believe that souls exist. Why?
Well, I had this really crazy encounter when I got high this one time with a lot of things I couldn't explain. And it made me search, question everything. I was an atheist at the time and it fucking broke me. It just made me feel like I was absolutely nothing. And I didn't want to live. I kept questioning everything, looking into things, reading, searching. And came to the conclusion souls are real. Reincarnation is
Right,
real.
Cool.
But why?
Yes.
Can you answer why do you believe that souls exist?
Well, because the potential for them to exist is there. There's reincarnations.
There's
We've had all sorts of different.
How have you
Like children
demonstrated
with-
that the potential exists?
Dark matter exists, matter that we don't see. It's
That's
still
not
around us all
that's
the
no,
time.
stop, Cody. I asked you, how have you demonstrated the potential of souls to exist? And you said dark matter exists. Explain how
Yes,
dark
it does.
matter exists as an answer to that question.
I mean, I could show you how dark matter exists with gravitational lensing.
What does dark matter have to do with souls?
That's what they're made of.
How do you know that?
And it's quantifiable. I could go into detail.
Oh my God. No, I can't do it. Cody, I literally can't handle you. You're gone. I'm sorry. I can't handle people who don't answer questions. I am not high right now. I'm high every single night of my life. I'm not high right now. And I feel high having talked to Cody.
Yeah, if your answer to every question that we ask is just completely avoiding the question, how are we supposed to engage at all or go anywhere? And these weren't even gotcha questions. We were just trying to establish where the conversation is going to go. We didn't even get to that point. And it sounds like the only answers he really gave us were like, one time I got high and then I started believing this thing.
Yeah. It may be the case that dark matter is a justification for believing the existence of souls, but take me there with you. Help me understand how to connect those dots. When you ask the question, right, and then you say it's quantifiable, that does nothing to elucidate the conversation. I think you hit it on the head, Eve. We didn't even get on the rails to the conversation, and that's what's frustrating to me. I would like to get on the rails, and then if you want to avoid the questions later down the road because the cognitive dissonance is too strong, by all means. But like,
at least let us establish a conversation.
Right. Okay. All right. We have another theist on the line. So this is Bill. Its pronouns are it, which could be valid and could be something. We'll see. Bill, you are live on the line. Don't make me regret this. What's going on?
Greetings. Hey, I wanted to talk about my belief in God, but I did have one quick question for you, Arden. If you don't mind. If you don't want to answer it, that's cool. You can go to the God thing. But and there's no disrespect, like I said, if you don't want to answer it. But
if you have to start a question like that, I'm highly concerned, and I urge you to really think if you actually want to ask whatever it is you're about to say, or if you want to go ahead and move on to the topic at hand.
Yeah, we're gonna punt it down to the God question. The fact that it needed that sort of preamble is already showing me that I'm not interested in hearing the question. So let's just get to the God stuff.
Yes, you got it.
Great.
Yeah, I don't really have like any I don't know how I want to talk. Like, I don't have any starter. I don't know how I want to. Maybe I'm just not really good at a good talker. So that's how I talk. And I'm kind of not a, yeah, I believe in God.
Okay, which God do you believe in?
I just believe in a God that I don't really understand, but that is responsible for creation. Okay. And I do believe that God is talked about in the Bible.
Okay. And
both
why do you believe
and inaccurately?
Okay. So you don't think the Bible is 100% accurate? Cool. Why do you believe that God exists?
Well, I believe it's like just analyzing everything, all the information that's reached me, and
yeah, but what specific information? I hope that you analyze the information, but what specific information has convinced you that a God exists?
Well, try to convince us. Well, at least let me finish my sentence, if you don't mind.
Bill, the problem is when you say things that initiate other questions, or you say things that we need to investigate further, it's better for us to interrupt you early on and ask clarifying questions so that we can keep the conversation on the rails rather than let you make another 2 or 3 claims that we don't understand or that we think haven't been justified and have to backtrack. So
Well, I
we're
wasn't
going to be
making any
interrupting.
claims.
We're going to be interrupting because we need to understand and to ask for clarifying questions. But please go on.
Well, the thing is, I wasn't making any claims. I was just explaining why I believe. I wasn't making any claims. And if you cut me off while I'm explaining my understanding of things, then I'm gonna you're gonna jam my thoughts. So I'm not gonna know what the hell I'm saying anymore. So what I was
Right,
trying
but
to
you
say
said
is that,
all of the information that reached me, and Eve, I believe you asked for examples of the information that has reached him, correct? Or it, sorry. Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. I just want to know what information, before we get into your process, what information did you even take into consideration to decide if you believe a God exists or not? Because you called the show. So you're saying you're not making any claims, but then why did you call us?
oh, because I thought you wanted theists to call you and talk and tell you why they believe in God.
We do.
Right. Because believe, like saying I believe God exists is a claim that this God exists. Or claim that you
Oh,
believe
I
this
didn't.
God exists. You claim that you believe this God exists, and I would like to understand why you believe this God exists. So I just want you to back your belief with show me why you believe. I would love to know if a God exists. I want to know about it.
I don't have any problem telling you why, but if you keep
Sure.
it's kind
Okay,
of
then go
aggressive.
ahead.
Let me. Thank you. So I said all the information I've received, meaning all information that I've received. So there's no specific in this book over here or back in '98. No, I'm saying all the information I received, and then how I've responded to that information in my life seems to coincide as I was going on to confirm that a God does exist. And that's why I believe.
So, Bill, the problem with and the reason we interrupted for all of the information you've received is because I haven't lived your life. I don't know all of the experiences you've had and all the information you've received. And so to help us understand what's convincing to you, we were trying to ask for examples of information that compelled you or that moved you in the direction towards theism. Do you have specific examples?
Okay. Well, so there's obviously specific examples pertaining to God or the idea of God. You know, I obviously learned about God from people, from the world, from living, but my belief in God comes from not that information, but all including that information.
Do you think that Arden and I should believe in the same God that you believe in?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Do you think that you have a good reason to believe in the God that you believe in?
Yeah, kind of like if a scientist does an experiment and it comes with an outcome that makes them, and their conclusions could be wrong. I mean, that happens all the time.
I just want to know about you, not scientists. So you believe that you have a good reason to believe in a God. So,
oh God.
Bill, the difference also here is that scientists, when they make observations, they can point to the observations and they can say, this specific thing has cued us into a hypothesis. Then we're going to test the hypothesis and generate data that can inform a conclusion. You are just saying all the things that happened to me, man. What are we supposed to do with that, Bill? We're trying to, this conversation. No, Bill, hold on. This conversation is meant to be a show where you call in to tell us why you believe, what convinced you so we can investigate. If you're just saying all the stuff that happened to me, there's nothing for us to do there. It's not compelling to anyone who isn't you if you can't give specifics.
Right, I do understand that this is a show. Not everybody's a TV or a show personality. So I will get there. I will get to a specific thing. But if you keep cutting me off and being rude and being belittling,
okay, no, I'm gonna stop you right there. I muted you. Nobody can hear you right now. muted you on my end, so it won't pop up on Colin's studio, because I've got all the power, baby. I'm not interested in hearing you whine and complain about us interrupting you. Either get to the point, or you're not ready for this. I'm not interested in hand-holding you and helping you make your case. I'm not interested in listening to you complain about the fact that you can't make your case. Either make the case, or this isn't the time. You are unmuted.
Okay. Well, if you stop interrupting me, I can make the case and stop muting.
Okay,
So
goodbye.
we host this show. We're allowed to do that, and now you don't get to have a conversation.
If you want to continue, Eve, I can unmute him.
No,
okay.
I'm good. I'm
All
good
right.
because that's taking up his own time, their own time. I don't remember the pronouns that we're using. Taking up its own time to tell us that we shouldn't be interrupting them when we're just trying to understand what's being said is real frustrating.
We had a similar conversation on TACIS this past week with a caller who wasn't able to make their point and then was also very upset that they couldn't make their point. And I've said it before so many times, I'm not hand-holding you to your own conclusion. If you can't do the work for yourself, that's not my problem. If you can't get to the point fast enough, that's not my problem. The irrelevant stuff, if you can't avoid the irrelevant stuff, that's not our problem.
Right.
Okay.
And we asked some very specific questions that would be like very easy to answer. So,
all right. Ryder is a theist in Pennsylvania. Pronouns are he, him. Believes God does not need to be proven and that he is self-evident. So, Ryder, you are live on the line. I'm curious, if you don't think God needs to be proven and he's self-evident, what made you want to call in? Hello? Apparently, people are struggling with their audio tonight as well. Check that you didn't mute their phone with your face. If you used your phone.
Hello?
There we go. Hello. Hey, Ryder. Oh my God.
Why?
Another person. This is this guy who's been calling in saying he's from Cuba to just cuss. Okay.
I was a part of that before. Yeah, it's great. I don't understand. Theus, if you're watching and you're listening to this, please, one of you has got to be able to call in, tell us what God you believe in. You don't even have to do that. You can just tell us you believe in a God and then tell us why and actually answer our questions. We're offering you airtime here with a lot of people listening. And if you have convincing evidence, if you have a good argument, I would love to hear it.
Yeah, me too. You know, I have a cousin who has a pretty big YouTube channel. He's a worship leader and his whole channel is about like how to conduct a worship service and how to like make your worship service better and all this kind of stuff. I'd be really curious. We're not super close or anything, like what it's like for someone in his position to see these kinds of people call in and represent Christianity. Because I think it would
whatever they're representing.
Right. I think it would feel like an obligation to want to, if people are open to listening to what you believe and why and being compelled into belief, I think it would be interesting or like worth their time. But
yeah.
Okay, we're going to try Ernest in Texas, another theist. Pronouns are he, him. Ernest, please be a sincere person. I'm literally begging you right now. What's going on, Ernest? Oh, I'm sorry. You were muted because the last caller. You're good now. Please start again.
Okay.
Hey, Ernest.
Hey, how are y'all?
Good, how are you?
Can't complain.
Cool. What do you want to talk about?
Well, this I've been wanting to call into the show for a while. Especially since I've been agnostic for the last 25 years or so, and you wouldn't believe what sent me down a rabbit hole that renewed my belief in God. It was this show. It was a show. Someone had recommended that I listen to the show. I guess maybe they were trying to help me confirm my agnosticism by switching me over to full-on atheist.
Can I ask when this was, just for context sake?
A month ago. Not even a month ago.
Okay,
and,
so
and
then you converted to what?
I renewed my belief in God. I rediscovered God.
Okay.
Okay. Which God do you believe in? Or is it just
The
a general
Abrahamic
God
God.
claim?
No,
Okay.
the Abrahamic God.
Okay. Got it.
Cool.
Do you want to tell us why you believe in that God?
Well, I started. It was the show that I heard with Matt and the red-haired guy, the biologist.
Forrest?
Kind of berate. What's that?
Forrest
Forrest, yeah.
Valkai?
Forrest-
Okay, I don't
Forrest
imagine him
V,
as
yeah.
red hair, so that kind of threw me
Yeah,
off.
me either.
But go on.
Yeah. He has cool, massive red hair. But anyhow, I'm just hearing them just berate and belittle Christians, and I get it. Some of it is self-induced, with how they try to make their point and kind of shuffle around the questions, and but it led me to do a lot of just research, looking into certain things that were said, and there was a lot of things that I had no idea of, according or scientifically. I mean, with the Big Bang, with the origin of the universe, origin of life. I thought we had this all figured out, and that God was more or less a imaginary friend for adults that just kind of made us feel better here and there, but we don't have it figured out. And the more that we find out, the more it leads us to creation.
So,
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out how you got from Matt is talking to Christians in a way that you think is berating and belittling them to creator
Well,
to
yeah, that had nothing to do
Abrahamic
with anything.
to right. So let's down to Abrahamic God. I'm just trying to make that leap with you, but I want to hear exact reasons instead of just like, oh, I thought we had it all figured out. Turns out we don't. Which I'm not a biologist. I don't know about the origins of the universe. I just don't know, but I don't see any reason to believe it's a God. So I'm trying to figure out how you got to Abrahamic God specifically.
Now that this is something I'm trying to figure out as well, so it could be my own bias leaning that way, because I was raised a Catholic, but it was not something that I ever really practiced. You're kind of born into it, So it could be my biases just kind of leaning that way to the Abrahamic God. But when I start looking more into it, and how much more accurate the Bible is versus other religions, I'm leaning that way.
can you elaborate on that? You say the Bible is more accurate than other religions. I don't know what you mean by that. Accurate with regard to what?
In regard to answering questions like the origin of life and the origin of the universe, and then when I look into, I'm not a scientist either. I don't know if y'all are, or what somebody said they weren't. But all I can do is kind of lean on the shoulders of giants. Listen to scientists now like James Tour. Mathematicians like John Lennox. I even listened to what's his name, Richard Dawkins,
but instead of
and things that
right, but what was it that convinced you? What information made you go from I don't know if I believe anything exists to I believe the Abrahamic God exists? What piece or pieces of
specifically Abrahamic God?
information?
Yeah, I'm getting there. So when they point out certain fallacies of science, and then I listen to explanations in the Bible of the origin of life, the origin of the universe. They fit according to scientific laws, or at least what we've observed so far.
So that's not entirely true, though, is it? I mean, if you look in Genesis, the order of creation, as far as I'm aware, is not in line with our understanding of the formation of galaxies and planets in the universe. So that's not entirely accurate.
Well, neither is the Big Bang Theory. Because
right,
that violates our own thermodynamic laws.
So I don't think it actually does, because the Big Bang Theory is not making any claim about the generation of any matter. They're just saying that we can't investigate beyond this point in time what may or may not have existed, right? So I'm not sure that's actually true,
No,
but
because
hold on, Ernest. I'm not
okay.
really sure why when you're saying, "Oh, you're listening to this show and we don't have answers for the origin of life or the origin of the universe," which is not necessarily true. We have some answers, but sure, we don't have all of them to your satisfaction. Why is the absence of an answer to you evidence for something else? That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, because we don't have answers, we have observations.
But do we need answers?
We hypothesize our own answers.
Why do you think we need to have answers? Do you think it's possible for something to be true and us to not know it? Not have the answer?
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
So then I don't understand how that's relevant that we don't have an answer being a problem here at all.
I'm on the phone. Well, I mean, the same can be said for a creator. I mean, just because we don't know that to be true doesn't mean that it isn't.
The same can be said about anything I could just make up right now out
Right.
of thin air. So I'm saying, why? What is your reason for believing that a God, that a creator exists?
The reason is because what I have discovered so far as what we do not know, and the more
What
that,
have you-
and like I've said, the more that we uncover, the more it points towards us being created, because we cannot, for the
Can
life
you
of us,
tell me some of those
understand.
things? Because you've said the same thing over and over. So what are the things that you're referring to that you have discovered that pointed you to a creator? Can you list some of those for us? Because all you've said so far
Okay.
is, well, we don't know. I'm fine with we don't know. Can you tell me what you do know that's made you believe a God created everything and a God exists?
Okay, so our body, even on a cellular level, we cannot replicate, duplicate any of that. We cannot create any life. Even though we know the components of what makes that up, we cannot create that. And we have made zero progress in the last 100 years in regards to that. It's so complex.
So wait, that's not true at all, right? There have been several experiments. I mean, I'm not a biologist, but I'm at least aware of the existence of experiments that have shown that under certain conditions,
Yep.
things like RNA can form naturally.
That is one small component, and that's something that was discovered years and years ago. That's one small component of a very complex thing.
But wait,
so
that doesn't make any sense, though. You had just said we've made no advancements in this field for the last 100 years. Therefore, I don't know what the conclusion you were leading to out of that was. But then I present you with something. Then I present you with something, and you say, "Well, that was formed years ago." I don't understand how that's a response to what I said.
It is a response, because I was saying in regards to recreating a functioning cell, we can't do it. We cannot.
I don't understand how that proves a God. That's what I'm trying to understand. Let's pretend that
Because it is
that we
because
that
it
we
is so
can't.
complex.
Tell me how that
It
means
is
a
so
God. That if we haven't figured out something yet, why does that equal God? I want evidence of a God, not, well, I don't have any other answers, so therefore it must be this. That's not good reasoning.
No, then is it both? Whether you're atheist or theist requires some sort of faith. Both of them
Oh,
do.
here we go.
We have.
What do I have
we-
faith
it-
in
it-
as an atheist? What do I have faith in as an atheist?
Okay, do you believe in the theory of evolution? Do you believe in the Big Bang Theory?
No, I don't believe in those things.
You don't believe they happened?
Do you believe in gravity?
I do. We observe it. We function within it. Of course.
We observe it, right? So this is not some entity that is this thing I can believe in like a God. I trust science, and I trust the scientists that have come up with these theories and that have developed experiments and that have provided evidence to back a lot of their theories. So I trust it. I don't believe in it. And I don't have faith in it, because faith, what do you define faith as? Let's maybe start there.
Faith is belief in, I guess, something that is unobserved, that hasn't happened. That I mean, faith is also a confidence. So you have confidence in something.
Well, right, but those are two different
there's tons
definitions,
of-
right?
Two completely different definitions.
I mean,
Which one do you want to go with?
They're synonyms. They're synonyms.
Sure, but they're
so-
different. So which one are you using? Because right, if you're trying to say, oh, I'm using faith in this context, but you also have faith and you mean it in this context, that means you're creating a false equivalency.
Not necessarily, because
Yes, necessarily. If that's what you're doing, that necessarily is a false equivalency. Is that what you're doing?
confidence is confidas, which is Latin for with faith. So I'd say they're one and the same.
Okay, Ernest.
So
go ahead.
So let's pretend that we have faith. So we have faith. You have faith. Okay, cool. Now what?
So atheists have faith in science, because now what has happened is it's
okay. So wait, no, stop, hold on. I want to let you go. I'll let you go. But just to be clear, when you're saying atheists have faith in science, in this instance, you're using the trust in definition, not the belief without evidence definition. Proceed.
Also, I do want to clarify that I know a lot of atheists that do not have any trust or confidence in science, and they're actually anti-science. So I don't understand what we're trying to say here.
I mean, I haven't met one. Like I said, this is a month new to me. So I thought we were discussing was what my thoughts and feelings were, but I mean,
right. But then you just brought up that atheists have faith, and I'm telling you that they don't.
Ernest, yeah, hold on. Okay, go on. I wanted Eve to be able to make her point without you interrupting.
So if we're just going to continue to split hairs, I mean, we're not going to get anywhere. But if y'all
it's not about splitting hairs. It's about being accurate. It's about being accurate when we're trying to find the truth, Ernest. When we're trying to find the truth, Ernest, it's about being accurate with our words. If we're going to be accurate with our words, when you use two different definitions of faith and compare them, that's a problem. If you just want to like hang out with your friends and talk casually, I don't care about the accuracy of your words. But when you're coming here to justify your beliefs and to make an argument, it matters.
Okay, so are we back on the faith versus confidence thing now?
I just want you to continue the point you were making previously.
I forget where this was going. I mean, sorry, y'all kind of derailed me with the hair splitting, but.
Well, if hair splitting derails you, then it sounds like you're not ready for this conversation, man. Maybe go back, take a couple months more into your theism and think about it a little bit more and call back again.
Yeah, you got it.
Cool. Thanks, Ernest. Talk to you later.
That'll be easy.
As soon as we get to atheists have faith just as much as theists do, then I feel like you're just regurgitating the worst talking points from apologists.
Yeah.
Which makes me think that you don't actually have a way to express what you believe and why you believe it. So yeah, I think your advice was right on.
Yeah, I don't even know if I would think that somebody who's making that claim is like into apologists, because I feel like I heard that from my very casual believing church-going friends back in the day. Like, I don't even think you have to be that deep into it to have heard that line. And it really is just kind of reaching for it because it's like, oh, I've heard this before. This applies. Seems like it applies here. Yeah.
Yep. I don't have faith in science. And also, I know a lot of atheists that are anti-science, unfortunately. So that just already doesn't. It falls apart, and it's a very weird place to take the conversation.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, we have another theist on the line. We've got Jackie. Pronouns are he, him in Missouri. Jackie is a theist, wants to talk about making the case for acceptance of religious faith. So this could be interesting.
Just
Jackie, you're live.
Real quick. I'm actually in Picayune, Mississippi. The person who was screening me must have misheard. I said Mississippi, not Missouri. But
actually,
anyway,
I think, wait, is MS Mississippi? I think the acronym is right, and I just messed it up speaking. So you're sad. Go ahead, Jackie.
So I just wanted to say, per se, that I believe it is a more reasonable case to live your life accepting that there is a God than there is not. I'm not going to prove empirically that there is a God. There's certain things which you can't prove using empiricism, but I do believe on a moral level, and the best way to live your life is as if something higher than you exists. So, could I make that case?
Yeah, I mean, I had other questions, but I want you to go on.
Well, you can ask him first, or
No, go ahead, make your argument. I'll take notes and we'll come back around
do
to
you know
things
who
later.
the philosopher Søren Kierkegaard was?
No, could you say that again? I didn't actually even hear.
Do you know who the philosopher Søren Kierkegaard was?
Oh, Kierkegaard. I'm aware of who Kierkegaard is, but I don't know any of like the things that this person is advocated for.
If I may ask, what is the philosophical school of thought that you have subscribed to?
I don't really subscribe to a single school of thought. I think I'm a
Same.
complex,
And I don't think
robust
that's
person.
relevant to you making your case. I'd rather you
Right.
make your case to
Well,
an
because
audience because
there
you
are
don't
certain-
know what all the hundreds of people watching right now.
Well, the reason is
How-
because can I just say it real quick? So
Mhm.
in that conversation, I think it's good to know what your opponent believes. That way you can explain to them in a way that you think they might relate to. Whereas if you don't know much about your opponent, and I don't watch the line very frequently, so I don't know very much about you guys, it's easier to explain in a way you might relate. Does that make sense?
So the problem with the question, at least for me, Jackie, is it's way too broad. What do I believe in? I believe in, what schools of like philosophy that I subscribe to. I mean, I think I take pieces from many schools of thought.
Okay.
I don't think I have a single school of thought that I could articulate for you.
Okay, can I ask you a question? Do
Go
you
ahead.
consider yourself a metaphysical materialist or more of a Nietzschean?
You would have to detail all of those, dude. I don't know the like specific names of the things that I believe in.
Yeah.
So,
Jackie, I'm really not
metaphysical-
interested in
okay.
you questioning us. I'd really rather you just make your
Okay.
point because it's
So,
either going to be
anyway, I'll just
convincing
get to my
to
point.
us all or
I'll just
not.
get to my point, okay?
Yeah.
So the reason I believe that it's more reasonable to live your life as if God exists than if he doesn't is because we live in a universe with unexplained laws. And the fact that we live in a universe is sort of, complicated because there's certain things which are beyond the realm of human logic because the human brain only evolved to understand on Earth. And there's certain cosmic questions which we can't understand. What I would say is that accepting the archetype that a higher eternal being created the universe is a way to create meaning and purpose in your life. Whereas, if you don't believe in God, you might not believe in said purpose. And if you don't believe that there's a higher purpose, that you create your own purpose, that's fine. But I just don't know why you dig religious believers so hard. Why do you publicly advertise your atheism? You can't show that there's no God any more than a religious person can show that there is. And religious people clearly live happy, fulfilled lives. So why do you publicly dog on religion?
So
That was a lot.
yeah, I was gonna say. So there's so much to unpack there. I'm happy to publicly dog on religion. I don't dog on religious people. I don't claim to know there. I don't claim to know that there is in fact no God. I'm not convinced of any of the God claims I've heard, and I don't claim to know whether or not. I don't know if you're aware of the agnostic atheist label. That's what I subscribe to. I believe that's what Eve subscribes to as well.
I do know that.
Yep.
Okay, so you were making an assertion about why we would claim to know something. I don't claim to know something.
I didn't say you claim to know something. I said you act as if you claim to know something. You actively.
So why does how we act?
Me or Arden?
Yeah.
Like, who are you talking about first?
And I don't know why how we act is relevant at all. If I'm telling you what my belief is, you talking about how I act seems to me to be irrelevant to your argument.
Like Jordan Peterson says, like actions speak louder than words, right? Who am I?
Okay, I don't really care about your perception of my actions, Jackie. I'd really rather you just like make the argument rather than asserting I hold a position that I don't.
Is, why do you actively advocate against religion?
So this isn't.
And you still have an answer.
So again, we're waiting for you to make the case for your religion. I'm not here to be interviewed by Jackie.
Well,
Jackie,
clearly,
do you care?
We live in a
Jackie,
universe.
do you care if what you believe is true?
I care what I believe is reasonable to believe and makes me live a fulfilled life.
Do you care if it's true?
Define truth.
That which
Do you care if
comports
it's
with reality.
in accordance with reality?
Yeah.
And what do you mean by reality? Because there are different types of realities. Like Martin Heidegger and the existentialists were focused on reality as a subjectively lived by a conscious entity, whereas materialists focus more on
Jackie,
material.
Can I ask Jackie? I think you probably know what we mean by reality. Do we really need to get into that? I'm going to assume you actually know what we mean by reality.
there are a lot of different terms that philosophers have used to describe the nature of existence and reality and being and becoming.
Okay, am I one of those philosophers? Like,
okay, I'm asking what you mean by reality.
Okay, so back to my original question, which is, do you care if something is true or not? Do you believe something can be
yes,
true?
Yes, I care
or
whether
not?
something is true or not. I do care whether something is true or not. Yes, I do.
Okay,
I do care.
cool.
I'm asking you.
So,
how you define
so
truth.
So then, do you want to believe in a God if it's not true?
If a God is not true, then I do not want to believe in a God.
Okay, then why are you advocating that people should believe as though a God exists, even if they don't know if that's true or not?
Because we have evidence and that it does manifest as true. Because
manifest as true? What does that mean?
So true, true can mean either is in accordance with material reality or is how people live their lives in the phenomena which they experience. And so on a phenomenological level, you can say the archetypes that religions pose are true. Like Jordan Peterson talks about a Jungian interpretation of the Bible, right? So
I don't care about phenomenological reality. I'm not talking about how people live their lives or what they live their lives in accordance with. I'm talking about what, like, reality. Or here, let's Google, all right? The world or state of things as they actually exist. That seems sufficient for this conversation.
Yes. But existence itself is, a very loaded term.
Oh my God. Can we just get...
So then if we can't even agree on any of that, then are we even having this conversation right now?
Okay.
Are you what are we even doing here? We have to agree on a basis of reality to even have this conversation.
If by reality you mean in accordance with the natural existence of the universe beyond conscious experience, yes, I'll use that definition.
Beyond
and I do
conscious experience, I don't know if I accept that. In my view, conscious experience would be a part of reality, but just because somebody has a conscious experience, they interpret their conscious experience a certain way, doesn't necessarily mean they're correct about it. So just because someone might have an experience of God, if that's where you're going, that to me wouldn't be included in reality necessarily. They would have to actually make the case for that.
Okay. And, so the fact that the universe exists and everything in the universe has a cause, to me, the Kalam cosmological argument is the most intuitive way to explain the unexplainable. So I have sort of Kierkegaard's leap of faith that an eternal being had to create the universe because everything else in the universe had something which caused it. There's no reason to believe that existence itself just has always existed, right? Why do you believe existence has always existed without some first cause like God creating it?
So Jackie, you called in and we started off, and I have it written down, so I don't think I'm wrong, but you called in saying that your claim that you're making is that it is reasonable for people to live their life as though a God exists, whether or not there's reason to believe that God exists. That it's just the idea of believing in this God is a good idea.
There is a reason to believe in God. I've said that multiple times that there is a reason to God. I'm giving you some different reasons that people have given, from the phenomenological arguments to the
Okay. I'm going to cut through here, Jackie. Yes, you've given us reasons that people have given. Can you give us your reason? I'm not really interested in hashing out.
Okay, the Kalam cosmological argument, the fact that everything in the universe exists that has a cause. Therefore, the nature of existence itself had to have a cause, and that cause has to be eternal. That eternal cause is what I would describe as God.
Okay. How did you become...
So you're just using the word God to define something else?
No.
I'm confused.
An
Maybe
eternal
clarify
being
a little
which
bit
created the universe and is all-powerful, omnipotent, omnipresent. Those are all the classic definitions of God.
So you believe in an omnipresent God?
Yeah.
Sorry, Arden, go ahead.
No. I was making that face at you. You're talking about the classical definition, and again, but I don't really care about the classical definition. I want to talk to Jackie and what Jackie believes.
What is your argument against the Kalam cosmological argument?
Okay, so you're using the Kalam. You're gonna stick to the Kalam. That's where we're at?
Yes, that's what I'm gonna stick for in this conversation.
Okay, I don't have the Kalam in front of me. I know some of the objections to the Kalam, but I can't remember every single fucking premise off the top of my head. So let me see if I can pull this up. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. So I think the problem with this is that we don't know for sure that that's true. I'm not claiming that the universe did in fact always exist. I'm just not ruling that
Yeah.
out as a possibility. The universe began to exist. That's what it looks like from this side, but I don't actually know if we can demonstrate that, and therefore the universe has a cause. But see, it all feels loaded and full of assumptions to me. I'm not sure either of those can be justified.
So, according to every empirical interaction human beings have had with reality, everything which exists has a cause. Now, it's true; it's possible that the universe has always existed. There's a theoretical possibility, but that's no more reasonable of a claim than a claim that God exists.
Right, but I'm not actually
Okay,
holding to
so
the
we're
claim.
not advocating for that. We're just saying we don't know.
Yeah, but in saying it's less reasonable than the idea that God created it.
How is that
It's
less
Occam's
reasonable?
razor that because if we have empirical evidence that everything in the universe has a creator, why would the very notion of the existence of the universe be any different from everything inside the universe?
I don't know. There's no way for us to investigate
you don't know.
any.
It's just an assumption.
Yes, exactly. I don't
Correct,
know.
and neither do you.
Right, and I'm not the one who's making a
it's
claim.
Occam's razor.
And Jackie,
What I'm saying
I'm not the one who's making a claim. I'm saying, I don't know. All of these things could be possible. Well, actually, I'm not even sure that they could be possible. We can hypothesize here all we want about the start of the universe, but I'm saying I don't know. I'm going to withhold belief until I'm going to withhold belief until there's actually a good reason to hold a position. I'm not just going to say, oh, well, we don't know. I like this answer better, therefore I'm going with that one.
Well, no. So the response I would have to that is Occam's razor. Sure, we can't know certain things for certain, but Occam's razor says that the most, like, are you familiar with Occam's razor?
Yes.
So the Occam's razor assumption is that if everything that has been observed so far has went a certain way, we can make that assumption about another thing.
That's not Occam's razor.
That's not what that says, but can you tell me what you're convinced? Like, why are you convinced of a God? You're just saying a lot of we don't know, which we agree with.
No. Yeah, Occam's razor is about opting for the explanation that has the fewest extra elements to it, but that still doesn't answer the question of why you are reaching a conclusion. You're saying, oh, I'm picking this one because of Occam's razor. No, you're saying I'm picking this one because of
me. That's why.
Actually, I didn't interrupt you in that situation, so I'm sorry that the tears are starting to flow. I'm sorry that the tears are starting to flow and it's getting uncomfortable for you. But saying that I'm opting for this answer I can't justify because of Occam's razor is not actually a justification when you can't justify it.
I can justify it. The justification is it's the simple, most empirically observed answer to every other.
It's not empirically observed. You have no evidence that the universe.
The empirical evidence.
Okay, I'm gonna say this one more time, and then I'm hanging up. Everything in the universe, which we know, has something which precedes it. Because we have seen that for everything in the universe, I believe the most reasonable assumption is to apply that to the universe itself. Until we can find something which doesn't have a creator in the universe, there's no reason, in my opinion, to say it's not the most likely explanation for why the universe would need a creator itself.
How did you figure out that it is a God that was the preceder? If that is even the case, which I don't agree with. But how did you get to that?
Because
how did you
anything that is eternal that can create the universe is God. What we call God is the eternal being that created the universe.
Okay, how did you know that it was a being?
Because if everything that exists in the universe has a creator, the most likely explanation would be that the universe itself has a creator. So in the same way...
Okay, that's not an answer to my question. That's not an answer to my question. Let's say I accept that the causality chain. I asked, you just said that it's a being. I'm asking if we assume that there was a cause all the way back, how did you know that the cause was a being with agency?
Well, that's a good question. And to be fair, I can't, know what's on God's mind. What I will say, though, is that...
How do you know God has a mind?
What was that?
How do you know that God has a mind?
By mind, I don't mean like an anthropomorphic mind. I just mean capable of, self-understanding.
Right. So how do you know that much?
again, I don't know. What I live my life as if is that, whatever created the universe, if it's all powerful, then presumably all powerful includes the ability to know itself. That's a part of all powerful. And the reason I would assume all powerful is because if you can create the entire universe, then you're more powerful than anything else inside the universe. So
you're making so many assumptions.
If we're going with this causality thing, then what preceded this God that you're saying preceded the universe?
Well, God by definition is an eternal being. So Nietzsche believes that everything in the universe is becoming because
Can
it's
you
made of willpower.
provide evidence of that? Why can't I just say that the universe is eternal then? You're getting rid of suddenly the argument that you made, which is this causality. Suddenly it goes out the door because you have this definition of an eternal God. So how are you using that argument on the one hand and then throwing it away as soon as it doesn't fit your argument?
Everything in the universe has a cause, so the universe itself, in my opinion, the most likely just explanation would be it also has a cause. And that
how did you determine likelihood?
Because
if you can't investigate the past, how did you determine likelihood?
We can investigate everything in the laws of the universe, that everything in the universe has a
yes,
cause.
but as you've confessed, because you yourself just said a minute ago something to the effect of, I'm going to live my life in accordance with this, even though I can't know for sure. So how are you making that leap? Sorry, that was inarticulate, and I didn't. Go on.
Because, again, if everything in the universe which exists as an identity has a property to itself, has something which caused it to exist, it might not be a conscious entity who caused it to exist, right? The reason why rainstorms happen is because the sun causes the water to evaporate, which causes rain clouds to form. That's an example of a cause. Now,
right.
You go way back to the beginning. Just let me finish. If you go way back to the Big Bang, we don't know what happened before that, but given that everything else in natural phenomena has a cause, I don't know why that would be true before the Big Bang, why that wouldn't be true before the Big Bang also, and why the universe wouldn't also need a cause, just like rain has a cause.
Just because you don't know, does that make something likely?
I'm saying it's most observed within the universe itself.
But you even admitted, Jackie, that there are some causes that are not done by an agent. Sometimes heat affects weather and solar storms affect whether or not we get to see an aurora borealis. Some causes are not done by an agent. Why are you making the assumption that it's an agent? Even I are both sitting here. We're saying that we're not ruling out the possibility that the universe was caused naturally, but we don't know, and so we're not going to make a claim. We're going to withhold belief until there's actual evidence. You're sitting here agreeing with us all the way up until the point where you have to make a claim about where you feel the need to make a claim about the first cause. Why do you feel the need to make a claim?
Okay.
Why can't you just say, I don't know?
I don't know why this watch exists that I just saw on the street. It could just pop out of nowhere.
You're going with the watchmaker fallacy?
Yeah.
That was something else that was...
The watch is irrelevant, Jackie.
Speak for once in your
no, Jackie. If you're going to bring up a watch when I'm asking you a direct question about why you're making an assumption about something which you admit you can't demonstrate, the watch is irrelevant. Can you answer the question?
Not irrelevant. Okay.
Yes, it is irrelevant.
I'm going to answer it one more time. If you don't like the answer, you don't like the answer. That doesn't mean the answer is not a valid answer. The answer is everything in the universe that we observe has a cause. Therefore, I am going to live the assumption that that law is a universal law of logic.
Why are you living that assumption? What are you uncomfortable with just saying I don't know, Jackie?
After time, that everything in the universe has a cause. There's no other explanation.
There's no other explanation.
The problem is you just said that you're living as though because everything within the observable universe has a cause. You say that you live as though before the universe began, that must have been true as well. But you don't live that way because you claim to believe in an eternal God that preceded all of this, that didn't have anything precede it, that did not have a cause. So you've suddenly removed
God, let me explain. God is a metaphysical entity. The universe is a physical entity. So the physical universe, everything has a cause, but a metaphysical entity like God is not bound by the physical laws of the universe. They're conflating the world of physics with the world of metaphysics, and those aren't the same thing.
Okay, so you're admitting that this is an assumption that you're making based on what you're observing.
This is an assumption I'm making based on my observations of reality.
Right, and you said there's no other explanation. I wrote that down. That is literally what you said.
What I'm saying is there's no other logical explanation.
There's plenty of other logical explanations. You admitted that while we don't have evidence, the universe. You admitted that while we don't have evidence that the universe could in fact be eternal, the cause could have been natural, but we don't have evidence, right? So why I'm reserving my judgment? Why are you making a judgment? I'll let you speak when I feel like it, because I don't know if you realize this, but this is our fucking show.
Yeah, but I'm saying your arguments are fallacious because
Tell me the fallacy. Tell me the exact fallacy. Tell me the exact fallacy right now.
The fallacy is you're assuming that two propositions are necessarily going to be have a reasonable likeliness.
I'm not assuming they have a reasonable likelihood. I'm just not ruling one out.
I didn't say I was ruling one out. I'm just saying.
No, I didn't say that. I said I am not ruling one out. You just said I made the fallacy of assuming that two things have equal likelihood. I'm telling you, no, I'm not. I'm not actually making a claim or an assumption about the likelihood of either. I'm saying I don't know. I don't know what the likelihood is. I don't know how you could possibly determine the likelihood of what started the entire universe.
Then if you don't know the likelihood, then why aren't you teaming up with the religious conservatives as much as you team out as atheist liberals? If they have equal likelihood for...
I didn't say they have equal likelihood.
I don't think they have equal likelihood.
Oh my God, Jackie.
Like, you act as if you don't make a judgment, but every decision you make in life has metaphysical presumptions behind it. And if you assume that there is a God, you wouldn't live your life like atheist people live.
How do I live my life?
How do atheist people live their lives?
Yeah, please inform me.
Religious people, for example, wouldn't be transgender, but
okay, Jackie.
Okay, here we go.
Goodbye.
Here we go.
Religious people wouldn't be transgender.
All of that.
Have fun telling that to all of the religious trans people that absolutely exist within the US, who I regularly am frustrated with because they are making just as many claims that they can't back up as cisgender religious people. I'm sorry you don't accept the evidence that exists on trans people, the evidence that's endorsed by every major medical organization within the US, the phenomenon that we have more evidence for in leaps and bounds than we've ever had for a prime mover. But cry about it, man. Come back again when you actually want to make an argument.
All of that that's wild.
Oh my God.
Honestly, somebody should go back and watch that clip and like take a shot for each time you can identify a fallacy, because they were just like one after the other, after the other, after the other. That was absolutely wild.
Yeah. It's really funny to me that they regularly call into the show to make some claim about trans people. And it's like, it's interesting to me that rather than make the case for what they believe and actually stand behind it, they want to say, well, you believe this thing that I think is silly and ridiculous.
Right.
Even if it is silly and ridiculous, I don't care. That's not a justification for what you believe in.
Yeah. Stay on topic. Yep. You're literally sitting here trying to exist, and people can't defend their God. And so they're like, let's just be a bigot instead. Also,
it's funny because, you know, how atheists live their life. Oh, well, example, they wouldn't be transgender. It also doesn't say anything about how transgender people live their life. How do transgender people live their lives? I would love to know what the assumption is. Okay. We are going to move on. We have a deist on the line. Nicholas, pronouns are he, him. And I think this one's actually Missouri. No, Missouri's M-O. What's M-I? Michigan. You are live. Welcome to the show. What's going on?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Pretty good.
Hey, good. How are you?
Pretty good. It's a beautiful night here. That was a weird last conversation.
It was, wasn't it? We have hope for this one.
Oh, well, I hope I don't disappoint. I'll try to not disappoint. So I have like three main arguments about why I personally believe that God exists. The way I phrased it is the universe is selecting for religious belief. I would say my first argument is that when I think about, because I was talking with my atheist. My mom is dating an atheist, and it's been a very, like, we've had these kind of discussions, not in a heated way. It's interesting because I haven't really talked to many atheists in my life, but I was talking to him, and he said, well, before you were born, I mean, you were nothing, right? So why would you assume after you die, it's not just going to be that again? And I kind of countered and I said, well, if the only example I have of me existing is me going from nothing to everything, I feel like it's almost more of an assumption for you to assume it's only going to happen one time. So that sort of brings in a potential reincarnation element. I would be interested in how you would counter that.
Well, I don't know that I can I don't know what happens when we die.
Right.
I have
That's
no
true.
idea, and nobody has any idea. So,
But I would counter that though by saying the only example you have of you existing is you going from nothing to existing. So I feel like it's less of a
well, we'd have to
leap of faith.
define nothing then.
Yeah, I don't know if we're on the same page about what you mean by that. So could you elaborate on that a little?
Okay, so I would say the way I define God is the active to be itself. So God is not a being.
Can you say one more time? God is what?
God is the active to be itself. So I don't view God as a being outside the universe. I think God's presence is felt throughout the universe, or all possible universes, if there's like possibility spaces out there. But
what would God's presence be, and how would one be aware of it? How would we measure that?
Well, that's a very good question. Well, so it sort of ties into the free will discussion, like that, this question. And I think it might not seem like it, but let me explain. I think when I think of free will, I think of, if you don't know the outcome, you're free. Because you can never know all possible futures, you're always free. Now, there's a spectrum of possibilities that you can encounter in the future. But
I want to let you talk, but I really just want to know, what is God's presence, and how would you define God's presence, and then how would you measure it or detect it?
I would say God's presence is the force that moves creation. I mean, it is when people speak of like in the Christian tradition, they speak of the Holy Spirit, right? When we think of like the laws of physics, like if I put a bowling ball next to my head and it's on a tightrope, or it's on a rope tied to the ceiling, and I let go, it's not going to come back and hit my head, because the amount of energy there you can't create energy. The law of I forget which law. I took physics a while ago, but not in a long time.
So the law of physics is God's presence. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I would say God sacrificed God's self at the beginning of creation in order for us to exist. And I think we're actually God evolving towards ourselves. And I think you see evidence.
Wait, hold on. Earlier you said God is not a... Yeah, earlier you said God is not a being. It's just the presence felt across the universe. And now you're saying God sacrificed itself. How could something that's not a being sacrifice itself? Help me understand that.
Well, it's not. So I think let me just like sort of redefine what type of deist I am. I would say I'm more of a panentheist, or panentheism. So basically, I think the universe is within.
Oh,
uh-oh.
Shoot.
Did we lose the call?
Oh, it did. Yeah, the call dropped. I don't even know what happened there. Nicholas, you're welcome to call back in and try to follow up that point again. But yeah, I'm sorry you dropped. I don't know what happened there. I was actually getting ready to take notes. I haven't heard of panentheist, so I was like, oh, cool, a new term. Let me follow whatever he's laying down. Okay. Excuse me. We have 2 atheists on the line, so I guess we will take those until we hear back from that previous caller. Also, it's only 8:20. We've only been at an hour and 20 minutes, so I'll leave lines open for now. If theists are listening and want to call in, number is 720-619-2288, and there's a web link in the description. Until then, all right, we're going to try talking to Zetsu. I have some reservations about bringing this call on. I'm going to be straight up from the get-go. Mostly because I'm not sure it's relevant. I'm not sure it's responsible for us to be talking about this on this show.
I probably won't have much to say at all about this.
I'll give you a shot. But there's a really good chance that I'm going to have to end this call after your intro, because I'm not sure that I think it's responsible for us to wade in on this. But go on.
Understood. A couple of preemptory comments. One, been watching Chewed Gum and Eve. You guys are absolutely killing it.
Thank you. Thanks so much for watching.
The other is that to say to Arden, I actually had the mistake of responding to something on Twitter saying that gender and sex were not the same thing. And after 2 days of incredible responses, I can't imagine what your life is like. And I'm so sorry that people treat you that way.
Well, luckily, I'm not on Twitter anymore, so I'm touching grass, and my life is actually pretty good. But I appreciate it, because when I come on the internet, it does get shitty. But anyway, go on with your point. What's up, Setsu?
So I look at the Palestine and Israel conflict, and for me, it really goes back to a religious conflict. And what frustrates me a little bit is that atheists seem to be reluctant to talk about that aspect of it. And I go back to Christopher Hitchens' argument that religion sort of poisons everything. And I see it so clearly there. And I mean, we can argue about who's worse and who's better and who's done, the greatest atrocities. But for me, I feel like the atheist community hasn't done a good enough job of going back to argue that there's something fundamentally religious about this conflict. I think you make the same argument about Northern Ireland as well. And I'm wondering why it doesn't get talked about more. And that's really my question. I don't have a side on this. And in fact, the fact that I don't have a side on this actually makes me suspect in so many people's eyes. I look at this and I think it, pox on everyone's house, right? That there's a lot to go wrong here. And I'm kind of curious both as to why you think we haven't brought this up as part of the atheist community, and if there's something we can do about that to reframe it in a way that makes people realize that religion is sort of at the root of what's going on.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, there's no solid atheist community. I mean, we happen to be atheists and we're all on the Skeptic Call-In show together and stuff, but there is not this there's no monolith. There's no church of atheists or anything like that. So that's problem number one. We aren't going to all agree on this. And that's, atheism is just a response to, do you believe in a God or not? And the other problem that I have, and I'll just speak for myself, I don't find it helpful or appropriate to be like, oh, nice, now I can make another one of my points, and here's some dying children to illustrate that for me. I think it's just not I can't do that. This is not the time or place to use something as an example to be like, see guys, religion sucks. Because first of all, I don't even know that I agree with the assessment that is what is at the root of all of this. And I cannot get behind using an active atrocity to back a philosophical point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, 100% with Eve on that one. For me, especially at the beginning of what was, this stage of the conflict, I suppose, is maybe the best way to phrase that. There were a lot of posts on social media that were just gut reactions to things they were seeing, and it was before we had gotten good information on everything. I'm very, very, very reluctant to talk about a geopolitical conflict that is this deadly and this mass scale. I think it's honestly, if you aren't in global politics, as a field of study, I think it's borderline irresponsible to be talking about this issue publicly. Personally, that's how I view it. It's just, I don't have the requisite knowledge. I don't have I'm not attached to the sources of information to have the best facts. And I feel like it would be really irresponsible of me to come on and tell you, like, I could tell you what things disgust me and how I emotionally react to the things that I do see. But I don't know if that's useful to anyone. I don't think it's really helpful to anyone for me to just tell you what I'm feeling. And I 100% agree with what Eve said about I'm absolutely not going to use an atrocity like this to back up my activism in any way. I mean, I know there are creators, and there are atheist creators who talk regularly about the Palestine conflict. I know Jimmy has,
Yeah.
I know Forrest has, and they both sound more knowledgeable than me. But it feels deeply irresponsible to me to talk about this on social media. Like, the only reason I talk about trans rights is because I'm very educated on it. I've read every fucking paper that's like ever come out practically on this, except for everything after I graduated school like 4 years ago, or wow, 6 years ago. Sorry, I'm older than I thought. So it's like I'm comfortable making claims and talking off the cuff on gender, even though it's a highly contentious issue and lots of people's lives are being affected by it, by like policy and things that are going forward. I like, obviously I care about what's happening, but it's just, it seems extremely irresponsible of me, a layperson, to weigh in on what is arguably one of the most horrific, like, geopolitical conflicts of my lifetime. I don't know how that.
I actually feel oddly comforted by both of your responses, because I feel the same way. I watch these things happening, and I think I should be able to say something more about this. But like you say, I'm not that informed. I don't necessarily know. I know that killing's wrong. I know genocide is wrong. I know that bombing people are wrong, and I'm opposed to all of that. Obviously, like I would hope everyone is. But boy, the complexities of this are mind-boggling. So I was wondering why the atheist community hasn't weighed in more, and I think that your responses actually helped me understand that a little bit better. So thank you very much for that.
Sure. Yeah, I mean,
Thanks
and
for calling.
keep in mind that, you got an answer from two atheists, it's definitely not the atheists. Yeah.
Right. That's not gonna. I know some peers that would strongly disagree with me and would say, "Come look, I've been saying all kinds of stuff." So that's the problem. There is no atheist community, in that there is no like atheist voice or atheist opinion or perspective on anything other than the position of disbelief. So, you're gonna get varying information. That's just my stance. It sounds like Arden agrees with why we don't feel personally like that's appropriate to advocate for.
But let me just play for a moment, just a little bit contrarian, which is to say that if this is a fundamentally religious conflict about like rebuilding the third temple and all of that, which actually a portion of American foreign policy is built on that notion, as much as that's horrifying to think about. Should the atheist community, if there is such a thing as the atheist community, which maybe there isn't, or the secular community, have more of a position on this? And I don't know the answer to that. I'm not advocating one way or another, but I'm just kind of curious if this is something that has slipped under the radar in a way which maybe it shouldn't have.
I just fundamentally don't think that just because something is a religious matter means that atheists should be weighing in on it. I think people's lives are at stake, and this is so much bigger than the conflict of, what's true, atheism or theism. This is way bigger than that. And I think right now our humanism should probably be a greater priority. I'm all for people who are educated on it and who are like informed on geopolitical issues to be making whatever statements are necessary. And I totally support people's right to protest and use their their free speech rights to get out there and make their feelings heard. But I personally do not think this is something any atheist should be like. Just because you're an atheist, I don't think you should be weighing on this just because it might potentially have some sort of religious connotation.
Well, and my personal stance is the best thing I can do is to continue advocating for skepticism and to continue talking about Christian nationalism and religious extremism in general, and continue attempting to spark some critical thinking amongst theists, so that we don't see this happen in other places as well. So my position is to stay in my lane, to do what I do best. And I'm not an expert on that. Like what Arden is saying, 100% sign off on, agree with, because it is irresponsible to advocate for or against or whatever something just because you're in a community, which I don't believe in the atheist community, but just because, oh, this is what we should all advocate for. I just don't think that's a responsible position.
Well, thank you both for your feedback. I appreciate that, and gives me a lot to think about, and it's such a difficult issue, at least for me, to kind of resolve. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Setsu.
Thanks.
Thanks for calling in. Talk to you later. Bye. Alrighty. We have Nicholas, who was on earlier, who dropped. We have Nicholas back.
Nice.
So we're going to bring in Nicholas from Michigan. Pronouns are he, him. Help us
Hello.
understand panentheism and all of the stuff. What's going on?
Yeah, so just to cap off, now that we've solved the geopolitical conflicts of the world, no, I'm just so basically, we are God evolving towards ourselves. The universe is selecting for religious belief, and so first I'll summarize, like, when we talk about like the soul, and this ties in. When we talk about the soul, really what we're talking about, I think, is the form, which is sort of what Aristotle referenced. If you think about your body, really the pattern is what maintains itself. The particles or the molecules are dying and switching out every time you go to bed. Various molecules of your body are switching in and out, but what remains is the pattern. What remains is the geometry. And what you notice when you examine history, at least human history, is that every time we've gone through an evolution, our ability to record what's going on in the present becomes more advanced. So it used to be we were just telling each other stories, and it was sort of like verbal communication between, like, you know, apes. Like they would just like pat each other and things like that. And then they started to be able to form more verbal communication and make noise. And then they started to carve things into stone. And then they started to be able to carve things across like multiple panels of rock. And then they started to be able to write things down. And then now you have, you know, books, and then you see audio, and then you see video recording, and then you see, you know, three-dimensional models of things and three-dimensional videos. You see that as time progresses, our ability to record the past is becoming more advanced. So, and I'm sort of a mystic, just so you know. But basically, that's when I say we're God evolving towards ourselves. In the future, what's really going to happen when people talk about the resurrection of the body, a real bodily resurrection, what they really mean is that whatever we're giving birth to right now, AI, whatever you want to call it, is actually going to go back in time, grab us, and pull us forward into the perfect future.
So
but
I
all of this
want to give you time to talk, but you've just said like a lot of assertions, and I want to kind of just get to something, and then you tell us why, because so far you've just said a lot of things that I'm like, how did you reach that conclusion? So I'd rather like pick something and then talk about it, you know?
Okay. So here's one argument I would make. It is a bigger leap of, so you would agree 50 years ago you didn't exist.
Sure.
How do you know how old I am?
Well, I give you the benefit of the doubt. 100 years ago you didn't exist, unless you have some anti-aging cream, in which case share it with me, and you know, I could use it too.
As far as I know, 50 years ago I didn't exist.
Okay, so the only example you have of you existing is you going from nothing to existing. So
what's nothing?
Yeah, I don't.
Well, meaning your form, your pattern, like I talked about, was not present. So there's two options with that.
So,
but
biologically, I wasn't here in this. Sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree to that. It follows to say that you went from nothing to existing, though. I mean, you had a sperm merge with an egg, all of the resources that the mother used to develop the fetus in her womb, and then you have a collection of experiences that are forming who you are. Like there wasn't nothing. There was sure the transfer of like energy and matter and all that stuff, but I don't really view that as nothing towards something.
Well, part of the reason I referenced it's a good point, but part of the reason I referenced the form idea that the soul is really your geometry, your pattern, is because I sort of suspected that rebuttal was going to be used. When I'm speaking of like your soul and you coming from nothing, there's two possibilities. The pattern potential was always there for you to exist, or the pattern was not always there for you to exist. I believe it had to be always there. And it's an assertion, but
before you go on, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't even necessarily know if I follow exactly what you mean by the pattern potential always existed.
Your geometry, the pattern that is your body right now, that pattern, in order for it to exist now, the potential for it to exist had to be there, correct? Because if the potential wasn't there, you wouldn't exist right now.
So I don't know. I'm not even entirely sure what you mean by potential in this case. So like, it seems to me that the universe is mostly. I'm nervous about wading into this water because I'm not super philosophically literate, despite having some philosophical background. Yeah, I don't know. The potential to exist always had to exist. I'm not sure that I understand even what that means. Like, it seems like an incoherent statement to me.
Okay, okay, so your current body, your pattern, which is the collection of your molecules, the potential for that pattern had to be there in order for you to be here right now, right?
I don't know. But what's your point?
How could it not? Because you're here right now. If you're here right now, that means the potential for you to be here had to always be there.
I don't know. I'm trying to understand your point.
The point I'm making is you exist right now, right? So the potential for you to exist had to come before the actuality of you existing.
I don't know.
I don't know what you mean by potential in this case. Like it doesn't comport with my understanding of what potential means.
Okay, let me try to go
back. It sounds like when you say potential, it sounds like you're saying predestined. And that wouldn't be one and the same to me.
Well, not predestined, but here's what I would say. Okay, so if you're a strict, I don't want to say that you're a materialist, but you believe that you agree the Big Bang created the universe, right?
Correct.
Or most likely created the universe.
Well, it's the current best explanation for the expansion of the universe, I think is.
Yeah.
Okay, you believe the Big Bang is
I won't go with
you believe
the creation.
You believe the Big Bang is the best explanation for the creation of the universe, correct?
Sure.
Okay, so if I could go back for the existence. Okay, so if I could go back to the Big Bang and watch it happen in real time, hypothetically, because and you would also agree the laws of physics, if we perfectly understood them, I could predict the next word that's going to come out of my mouth because it's all predetermined right from the beginning. It would have to be. It's an equation. It's like math.
So
2 + 2 equals 4.
Yes, I am somewhat convinced of the notion that the material world is predetermined. I don't completely understand the physics behind it, though, so it's really hard for me to be comfortable, like, sitting in a position or, like, making a hard claim on it. But for the people who are much smarter than I am, have made very compelling arguments for that to be the case.
Okay, yeah. And I agree. From an atheist standpoint, I feel like you would have to be a determinist. I don't see how an atheist couldn't be a determinist, to be completely honest. But it's beside the point. So if I can look at the Big Bang and predict this very conversation is happening, if you perfectly knew the unfolding nature of the matter that was going to happen, the energy, the matter, whatever, the fact is the potential for this conversation to happen had to be there before it actually happened. Does that make more sense what I'm trying to get at? If you look at the Big Bang, the event hasn't happened yet. But you agreed with me. You could look at the equations or the laws of physics that caused the Big Bang and say, this event will happen in the future, which means somehow there's a possibility space, a geometry.
Sure.
Within the initial creation.
I think the problem is that potential sounds loaded to me. But if you're saying, according to determinism, you were destined to exist forever, like, yeah, that seems to comport with my understanding of determinism.
Okay, so Okay, so we've established that. Like, we were destined to exist forever. Like, if you go back to the Big Bang, this conversation was inevitably
destined
going
is
to happen.
again loaded. Oh, Eve, you're muted. I'm sorry. That's what you're about to say something.
No, we haven't. I don't agree with that.
Okay.
Can you expand how you don't agree with that? I don't see how.
Because I don't think you've made a good case for it.
Well, I don't see. Okay, but you just recognize. Okay, but I'm not trying to be. I'm trying to not be. I'm kind of confused as to what you don't understand. I mean, you just recognize the Big Bang. What you agreed it was the most likely explanation for the beginning of the universe, and then I don't understand how it wouldn't follow that from that the beginning of the universe. If you properly knew the laws of physics that generated it, or if it was quantum tunneling or whatever, you could predict this conversation was going to take place.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like potential to me, though.
Yeah.
It's possibility.
It's inevitability.
How is it not?
Yeah.
Is it not?
I don't know.
According
I don't know
to that
about No, I
definition?
think it's no. No, I disagree with that. It's possibility. It's not inevitability, because inevitability makes it seem like every possible possibility is going to be generated with certainty. When in reality, what we're really saying is there was a possibility that this conversation was going to take place when we look at the initial moment of the Big Bang, or the Big Bang in the beginning. I think those are different. And it's
I feel like we have to like take a step back, because we're wading into aspects of physics that I'm just not educated on, and I feel like it's impossible for me to like really participate in this conversation and answer the questions you're asking without the prerequisite understanding. So I don't know what we have to do necessarily to zoom back out here and to maybe bring this down.
Okay, I'll walk it back. So I'll go back to just my one of my basic philosophical arguments. You exist now. Before this, you were not aware of your existence. Is that fair to say? Before you were born, you were not aware of your existence, correct?
As far as I know right now, but that's all I can be sure of.
Okay, but before you were born, you were not aware of your existence, correct?
As far as I know.
Okay, would you agree that consciousness is a material reaction in the brain, most likely? Because when we poke someone in the brain, there's a physical reaction and there is a measurable, quantifiable response that happens in the person.
I think what Eve's trying to say is that she isn't aware of anything before she was born, so it's hard to make a hard claim on what she was or wasn't aware of before she was born.
Okay, so is it safe to err on the side of... Okay,
Well,
no, that's correct, but I would also say, is it safe to err on the side of caution that before you existed, you didn't have any experience? Because I think the scientific literature would back that up pretty strongly, that you don't have any... If there's no memory, if there's no measurable state, if there's no testable reality, you can't possibly know. Therefore, erring on the side of caution, the same way you err towards atheism, it makes sense to err towards that you didn't have any experience.
Well, no, but... So, wait, okay, now I got confused. Go ahead, Eve. You look like you're about to talk.
I'd kind of just rather you get to the point, and maybe we can piece it together better once you get to that.
The point I'm trying to make is that you exist now. Before this, you did not exist, or at least you didn't have any knowledge of you existing, at the very least.
Sure.
If that's true,
this version of me did not. Yeah. Keep going.
If that's true, the only example you have of you existing is you going from nothing in the past, which you can't verify what happened in the past. You can't know, other than, like I said, we're God evolving towards ourselves. So our ability to record the past is increasing as we evolve.
Can you let me know, what does that mean? God evolving towards ourselves? Is that what you said?
Yeah, we are God evolving towards ourselves.
Okay, can you explain that?
Okay, but I don't want to get lost in that. I want to focus on this point first, if that's okay.
I guess so, but that seems like a really big piece that you just keep casually throwing out there. Like, you've said that a few times, like very casually, and this seems like such a complex way, and I don't know what the point is.
Right, and you keep saying from nothing to something, and I'm not sure that I agree with that either. I don't know that that's been justified.
Oh, okay, Alex. So are we connected to are we connected? So would you agree that we could predict this conversation if you went back to the Big Bang?
I don't know.
Knew the laws of physics.
I don't know. If I'm going to be responsible, I don't know.
You couldn't grant me that. I don't see how you couldn't grant me that, though, because
It's
if
not
you
about
look at,
granting or not granting. It's
I
I
feel like the
don't
science
know.
backs that position. I think the science backs that position. That
I
if,
don't
that
know
if
what
you
science
knew,
backs, Nicholas. You may be right. I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm telling you I don't
So
know.
for the sake of the conversation, can we grant you that, and then you can get to your next point?
Sure.
Okay, yeah. So if that's true, that
Okay.
looking at the laws of physics, you could determine this conversation. What that means is that from the very simple beginning of the Big Bang, the very simple beginning, we have this greater, more complex reality. We are evolving. Would you agree with that right now? We are evolving. Evolution is happening. Natural selection is taking place.
I don't know what you mean by we are evolving. Evolution is how we describe, like, the change of allele frequency over generations, or like the change in heritable characteristics across generations. If you're saying that we are like evolving in our life in a metaphorical way, I guess maybe, but
No. I'm saying we're evolving in a biological way right now. Natural selection is taking
in
place.
this lifetime, evolution doesn't happen within like a single organism's lifetime. That's not what evolution is.
I know. Well, I didn't say that was what it was. You inferred that's what I said it was when I didn't. What I was implying is that what I implied is that natural selection is taking place. Now, is natural selection taking place right now? Yes, it is. Some people are reproducing, some people are not reproducing. That is how it happens. Over generations, the compounded effect of that, you eventually get different variations in different animals. So we are evolving. Now, what the argument I would make is that you see with the singularity, with like Moore's law. I don't know if you've ever read any sort of like Ray Kurzweil or any sort of any sort of computer scientist who argue that basically when you look at the compounding of our computer processing power, it's an exponential growth. And what you're going to see over the next couple decades is that the Moore's law is another way
Nicholas,
to say it. What you're going to
can you promise me this is getting to the point? Because I don't understand how the compounding development of technology has anything to do with. I'm so thoroughly fucking lost, my guy.
We are becoming God. You can see it all around you. You see the technology. It's happening right in front of you.
Hold on. Hold on. I just found the thread. I think I just found the thread. Are you are using a definition of God that seems to me to be functionally so detached from every definition of God I've ever heard before. So you're saying that with the development of technology, we'll become what? So powerful and awesome and knowledgeable that we're just functionally equivalent to gods?
I don't know if it'll. Well, I don't know if it'll be. Basically, I would say essentially yes. I mean, when you look at the advance of technology, we are okay. We will most likely merge with technology. We will most likely become.
So then, if your definition of God is just a human who's like really smart and really awesome and really powerful, then
or
I guess
better than they were before.
Yeah, then I guess I believe your God could hypothetically exist in the future, but that doesn't. That really seems so detached from the definition of God. Like I don't see the point in this God belief.
No, wait, but let me tie it together. I really appreciate the comment you made, but let me tie it together. So the point I made at the beginning of this conversation, when I kept saying we are God evolving towards ourselves, and you know how I said every time we evolve, our ability to record the past becomes greater?
Okay.
That's a very poetic way to say that we've just figured out better ways at recording information. But yeah, continue.
Well, yeah, okay, fine. I'll phrase it that way. We've found better ways of recording information. Really, what we found is a better way of recording the pattern, the geometry. In the future, the AI robots, whatever we're going to design, is literally going to pull us forward. That's what's going to happen.
That's like a massive assertion.
It's just like so? I'm fine with. Listen, Nicholas. I think I've connected the dots now, and I appreciate. It's fun to like speculate about the development of technology, and I'm not even necessarily saying your speculation is off base. I don't know. I just don't know that like if your definition of God is this like just elevated human, that to me just feels like not the definition.
No,
okay.
That's a watered down definition. We will be more than human.
You could write like a cool story to have this be the basis of it, but to me, it just the whole thing sounds unfalsifiable and just very exploratory.
How's it unfalsifiable? I would say it's. I appreciate the criticism, but I would say it's infinitely testable. It's happening right now all around you. Natural selection, evolution, like we are literally.
God, You're using the word God and just replacing it for stuff that we can already define without the
No,
word
I'm saying
God.
no, but we're not there yet. I would agree, we're not God yet, and we're not. And we're,
But
and,
no, but
and
what?
You are trying to say that you believe in something that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, what is your definition of God? Because when you're saying we're going to become God, to me, based on what I conceive of a God as being, and most of the God definitions that I've heard proposed, that does not seem to make sense with what you're saying. Like, to me, I feel like your God is Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger by Daft Punk. And help me understand how you're using God here.
Well, so I mean, now that we've granted that we are evolving and experiencing natural selection, and that technology is the next leg of this evolution, most likely. I mean, I think the majority.
Maybe. I don't even
people-
know that that's most likely.
And I don't think I would call that evolution. Like, that's just like technological improvement. That seems distinct to me.
It's absolutely
It's
evolution.
metaphorically an evolution, but like it's not a biological evolution.
Yeah.
No, whoa, it is. It absolutely is. It is real evolution. If your society does not use, you're drawing an arbitrary distinction between you and the tools you're utilizing. That's a false.
I don't think I am. I think evolution refers to changing inheritable traits across generations of populations. And just because technology is improving and people are getting, having better lives and they're able to do more impressive things with it, doesn't mean that they're evolving or changing into a different species. They just have different capabilities based on technology. Like, I'm fine with using it in a flowery way, calling that evolution, but I think it's important to distinguish between what evolution is actually, how it's actually used in a biological setting, and what you're talking about.
Well, so if I have 1,000 humans who are have a computer chip implanted in their head, and they're able to more accurately calculate information, and they're able to more accurately record the past, and they're able to build better structures, and they're able to more likely pass on their genes because they have this superior
If that
capability
ever
given
happens,
to them.
then call in and we can talk about it.
It's happening right now. Look what we're doing. We're talking with a satellite that's out in the middle of outer space. We're evolving right now.
This is not
God?
Nicholas.
So are we God? What's your point?
Yeah.
We are evolving. Okay, well, we're not there yet, but the point I'm making is 400 years ago, we were basically sticks and stones compared to what we have right now.
Yes,
where are we going to be in
That's
another
so
100
cool.
million years?
That's super cool. We've progressed as society and as people, and we've gained knowledge and technology, and that's super cool. I still don't understand your point.
Yeah, 400 years ago, okay, first of all, it's not even true that 400 years ago we were in sticks and stones, that we were in the Iron Age then, I think. So we were definitely way past sticks and stones, but I get your point. And sure, as technology improves, it looks analogous to evolution, but it's not evolution. In a purely metaphorical sense, you could call it evolution, but that's all it is metaphor. And I don't know. Listen, I think I get where you're coming from now, and I finally feel like I'm not crazy, because I was really struggling to find the through line. Now that I have the through line, I feel like I'm not quite as angry at you, Nicholas. I wasn't really that angry, but I was very frustrated that I could not understand what was going on. I appreciate where you're coming from, but this is not the kind of God that we're asking for proof of. When that happens, definitely call back and prove, like Eve said. Eve was right on that. But that's not really what we're here for.
Well, but I would say, though, so just to conclude the argument, right, to get to the type of God that you want me to justify, I would define God as this: all-knowing, all-powerful, infinitely intelligent. That's what's going to or no, I would define it as this: more powerful, more knowledgeable, more intelligent than any other being.
Do it better, make it faster. Yeah, it's literally just Daft Punk, man. Listen, I appreciate the conversation. Go ahead.
Yeah, but you're saying that doesn't even exist yet. So you're calling to argue on behalf of something that is, like I said, unfalsifiable, because you're claiming it doesn't even exist yet, but it's going to. Trust me, bro. And to me, that's a fun conversation to have. I have those kind of conversations with my friends over a drink, and that's fun. But there's kind of nothing to it other than speculation, and maybe some educated speculation, and that makes it more fun. But that's not a real claim that can truly be backed right now.
Yeah, and I don't think it's functionally God or evolution. Like, again, totally works in a metaphorical sense. To me, that does not seem to be a literal God. And I love that you went from like a classical theism God to literally saying more stronger. Like, that's just, it's so funny. All right. Yeah, Nicholas, no hard feelings. We're going to let you go and move on to the next caller. You can give a little last word if you want, but thanks for calling in. We're going to wrap it up here.
Yeah.
Okay. What I would just conclude with this. Thanks for having the conversation. I would just add this last point. Like I said, we are God evolving towards ourselves. In the end, currently there is a most powerful, most intelligent, more wise being that exists in the universe. That is God at this moment. It is evolving towards a greater form of itself through the process of evolution. If you don't want to define that as God, that's fine. But I think you're the one arbitrarily shrinking the possibility space for what you accept as God. I offered you a broader definition. It's fine to reject that, but I think I demonstrated. I think it was broad. Not really, honestly. Like the most powerful, but beside the point. I think I sufficiently demonstrated that there is evidence for a most powerful being in the universe at the very least. So.
Okay. Thanks, Nicholas.
All right.
Talk to you later. Man,
sorry,
that was a
like,
trip.
really painful.
I feel, remember how I said earlier, I get high all the time and I didn't feel high, and that conversation made me feel high again. I'm just so glad we finally connected the dots. There was I at least understood his argument.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, I know at the end he threw out that thing again. I think, did I write it down? Oh, we're God evolving towards ourselves. I don't feel like that ever got really, I mean, it's all about this futuristic stuff, which is, again, like I said, cool idea, cool thought experiment, but that's all that it is. That wasn't, what did he say at the end? That was he presented a good case for believing that. I don't think so. I think it was just like, here's an idea of something that could happen. Well, let's see.
Right. Totally. Yeah. I'm 100% there. Okay. We have 2 callers left on the line for tonight. They are both atheists. I did close the lines. It's about 2 hours. I think it's probably a good time to take these last calls and wrap it up. If you're on the line, stick around. Let me do announcements again really quick so that way they get out twice before we wrap up these calls. Okay, tomorrow on Skeptalk is going to be Shannon Q and Erika Guts at Gibbon. Tuesday, Chewed Gum will be Eve and Alyssa. Wednesday on The Hang Up will be Matt with David Fitzgerald. I will be on TACIS this Thursday with Josie. Then next Sunday will be Forrest Valkai and Eric from Skeptics and Scoundrels on The Early Show, and then Paulogia and John Gleason on After Dark. All right. Oh, also, subscribe to our Patreon. We've been having an issue with the demonetization, and it's been definitely affecting income. I know once we hit, I think it's the 1,000 active patron users, we'll have Matt and Jimmy do their bad movie reviews. I think it's 1,000. Hopefully, correct me on that if anyone in chat remembers what the previous.
I think that's right.
Yeah, I think we're like over 700 right now or something like that. So definitely go subscribe. It's the best way to support the line. It makes us not have to depend on YouTube for making all these shows possible. But let's wrap up. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
There's the new podcast over there too, and you get first access to it. And I love that podcast style so much. Jimmy just calls one of us up and we have a conversation, and it's really funny. And there is a format to it. So, we have to do a quiz. He has certain questions for us. So it's a fun way to, I think, get to hear more of the personality behind a lot of us, because you're used to us just arguing with people all the time.
Right.
So it's some insight into other things about us, which I think also provides some cool context to how we handle arguments on the line the way that we do. So anyways, go join.
Absolutely. I'm so waiting for when Jimmy calls me, especially because Jimmy has an amazing, he's got incredible timing. It always seems to be like, I'll have finally finished everything for the day. I'll be like sitting down on the couch and be like, oh, what do I want to watch? I'll finally found the show, quit play. And that's when he calls me. So it's almost inevitably going to be that exact situation. And I can't wait for it.
Of course. Of
All right,
course.
let's talk to David, who's been on the line for like almost 2 hours.
Oh
David,
God.
thank you so much for waiting. I really appreciate it. Why don't you
Okay.
go ahead and tell us what's up?
Hey,
Oh,
David.
first of all, thank you so much for taking my call. I really appreciate this. Secondly, my argument is that religion has always been used as a tool by the state to reinforce its power. If we look at ancient history, we think of the first countries that existed, like ancient Egypt and Sumeria, and they had their god kings. And we look at the modern era, the King of England is the head of the Church of England, we look at, say, for example, currently in Russia, like Putin's power wouldn't exist without the Russian Orthodox Church backing him up. And we see the same thing here in the United States. Because of that, I don't think that there's ever going to be a time in which religion disappears or goes away, not unless states themselves go away, which seems highly unlikely. But at the same time, it's interesting to look at that and to realize that that's what the purpose that religion serves.
I can get behind some of that. I don't think that that is the primary origin of religion or even purpose at all. I think inevitably people in places of power, and sometimes that means larger groups of people in power, find that thought policing is a great way to maintain control, and that you can do that through religion oftentimes. So I don't think I'm willing to agree with like as blanket of a statement as you're making, but in general, I get what you're saying or agree with some of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm on board with that. I also kind of reject, it seems like you were also applying that in like a forward motion where because you think it's always been the case in the past, it's always going to be in the case going forward. You said unless there's no state. But we already see some countries where there are majority
Right.
secular people. So I think that seems to evidently not be the case. I would definitely agree that co-sign everything Eve said. I don't need to repeat it.
Yeah, but that's a great
Thank-
point too. I think that's also true that we are seeing evidence that religion is not something that has to stick with us or with cultures and with society as a whole. I think it will always remain in some places, always. I don't want to use that word. I think it will for a while at least. For the inevitable future, I think that it is going to be something that we always see, but not within state power. For example, like Christian nationalism. I don't think that that has to exist within the United States of America. I don't think that that is an inevitable. I just think that we're going to have groups of people that end up believing in gods and create religion surrounding it. And we're seeing that become less and less common in society in general. Which is why we're
I
getting,
certainly do.
honestly, right now we're getting a mass exodus, and the nons, as they call them, are going up in the United States. So to me, that's already evidence that to the contrary, if anything.
Well, I certainly do hope that you're right and that I'm wrong, because the world would certainly be much better off and if we are really approaching a sea change where we're moving away from religion being as closely tied to the state as it has been historically. I guess I tend to be a bit of a pessimist because here I am, I'm 50 years old, I'm somewhat closer towards the end of life than I was in my youth. And the idealism that I had in the past of, okay, things are getting better, is starting to fade into, well, nothing's really changed, so maybe it never will. I remember a time when I was very young, and I'm a gay man, by the way, and we didn't really have any civil rights vis-a-vis, being able to adopt, being able to join the military, being able to marry, things like that. None of that existed for the majority of my life. And then I saw everything come together all at once, and it seemed like, wow, things are getting better, and, maybe the world is changing, and maybe the world is a better place than I thought. And now every time I turn on the news and I hear some politician flapping their gums, it seems like they're trying to push us back into the closet again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's a couple of things contributing to that perception, though. I mean, I think for one, there's always pushback following progress, right? I mean, like, as soon as in every like major like civil rights achievement that we've seen, I think immediately after there was a huge wave of people who wanted to fight back against it, And in some cases they've definitely been successful, but in most of them they haven't. And it's kind of like a stocks graph, like the trend might be up overall, but there's little dips in the here and there, and I think that's to be expected. But secondly, to your point about how, every time you turn on the news, it's a certain kind of way. I feel like that is a product of just the times that we're living in and the kind of news that sells.
Right.
I don't really think that we're seeing like a actual increase in the amount of bad things happening per se. I think it's probably just we're, in the information age, we're more aware of them, and humans aren't exactly built to be aware of every conflict happening at every country, at every state, at every time. And so it feels a little bit overwhelming to be taking all of that in, but I don't know that I'm convinced more bad things are happening.
Well,
I don't blame you. I don't blame you for feeling that way, especially when you're, like Arden said, watching the news. I think that looking at statistics almost always makes me feel better about stuff. Getting some hard data about what's actually going on really helps. So do that, and also remembering that the worst and the best of what we're hearing is just one small fraction of what's going on in the world. So it's a difficult thing in that I want to tell you, maybe take in less information, but also take in broader information than these hit pieces that are really discouraging. I don't blame you for that. And I also don't think some of them are unwarranted. I do think that they're cautionary, things to be aware of. You're right. There are human rights that are at stake all the time. And that is, that's why I'm an activist. That's why I do what I do, because those are very real threats to take into account and to make sure that we stay aware of and that we fight against. But that doesn't make them true right now. That doesn't mean that we've lost. That doesn't mean that we even have to be that concerned about it. Does that make sense?
It does. And I'd also like to say thank you to the both of you for standing up for the LGBT community so consistently. You have been strong advocates for my community as long as I've been watching the line. And I'm so grateful for what you have done. When I spoke earlier about for the majority of my life, we didn't really have any civil rights. Well, I do believe that the reason why we have the rights we have is because of people like you. And I am so grateful for everything that you've done for us. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I guess I do feel a little depressed because, gosh, when I turned 18, that's when, like, the Berlin Wall fell in, And I thought for sure that meant there wasn't going to be any more worries about nuclear war, and we could just forget about the atom bomb, and that's that. And now, God, it looks like we have to worry about that again, And it just seems like all of these things from the past, things that I thought went away, they're all back again. And I'm like, why? Why do these nightmares keep coming back over and over, And how do you make them go away forever?
I think, it seems trite to say like history repeats itself, but you see a lot of the same tactics being used, especially in like the anti-LGBT movement, like the same exact arguments that Anita Bryant was like kicking off in the beginning of like the gay liberation movement are like what the Republicans use to disparage trans people now, like almost word for word, spot on.
Exactly.
Yeah. But
like it horrifies me because like I see like trans people are getting murdered left and right. And like every theist caller that you've had on the show today, right? If you left them on the phone long enough, they ultimately came around to insulting trans people. And that was the same on the show that I saw before this one too. And I'm like, the vitriol, it's nuts. Like these people are so preoccupied with trans people as well as the LGBT community more broadly, but definitely much more so with trans people now.
Yeah. Well, and that hate does exist, but it's important to remember we didn't have call-in shows, like 30, 40 years ago. This is relatively new that we can get this much information and talk to this many people. I mean, who knows how many callers have ever called into this show. So I think that's something to keep in mind too. We are being inundated with more information than ever before, as will continue happening. As what was it, Nicholas, that was making the case for that? And then we'll turn into God, apparently. So,
Right.
but so that's the other thing, is that we're consuming a lot of content. So we are hearing these extremes. You know, I'm engaging online with really nasty theists all the time, and then I go out in real life and I'm engaging with really lovely theists all the time, and some nasty ones too. But they all exist. We're hearing from some of the worst. And I think that's important to remember. That's how I protect my mental health as well, because you're right. Like, we are engaging with a lot of vitriol and hate. And I remember that this does not represent a majority. This absolutely represents a minority when it comes to that amount of hatred and vitriol, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think also, like, in response to, you're saying, like, oh, like, you know, the theists, so, you know, if you let them talk long enough, they'll inevitably go anti-trans. And I think that's true, but also I think that's kind of like a sign of victory in my eyes. Cause, like, one, I got, there's nothing anyone could say on the internet to me that could actually wound me. Like, I've had hard times and I've done healing, and, like, there's nothing anybody on the internet could say to me to wound me. So I don't care if they get anti-trans. And I actually think it's a victory, because if they are so thoroughly unable to make an argument for their own position that they have to resort to just being like, well, yeah, but you're transgender, I'm like, cool. Like, you have basically admitted defeat in that situation, right? You know, from the side of, like, advocating theism. But I don't know. It is brutal out there, but also, even when you, like, look at polls for Republicans, like, constituents, like, they don't even support a lot of the anti-trans bills that are going forward. I think if you pressed a lot of them, they would say the same things they heard on Tucker Carlson to defend it, because cognitive dissonance or whatever. But most of them even think that the bills are too extreme. And I think most of society is kind of moving in a direction of, you know, live and let live. And I don't know. It's also an element of the last thing I want to add on to this before I like pass it back to you, David, is just that it may be the case that nuclear warfare happens. It may be the case that we lose civil rights, but, like, there's no way to know that. And we're not there yet. So we can take steps to prevent that. Right. And, like, that's almost like what Eve was saying. Like, that's why I'm an activist. That's why I do Transatlantic, because right now is a time where I have the ability to speak unimpeded, and I can actually, you know, work to combat misinformation on trans issues and things like that. And that's why I show up here to do this in the first place. I can understand why somebody might have the fears that you're articulating, but I do think it's important to acknowledge, like, you can't predict the outcome, and we're not there yet. And so you can either take actions that can, like, help assuage that, or you can just, like, acknowledge that we're not there yet. And so there's no reason to worry about it yet. But yeah.
You are so unbelievably strong. I wish I were as strong as you are. To be able to put yourself out there, like, on the internet like this. I admire you.
I appreciate the thought. It doesn't always feel strong. It just kind of feels like I show up and talk sometimes, but I appreciate that that's how people view it.
Are we strong or are we stupid?
Right, I know.
Because we're just, like, putting ourselves out here over and over again. That's what I always say.
Yeah, it does feel sometimes like it's stupid. I mean, you know, it's whatever.
David, I don't think you're any less strong or any less brave. We all show up in different ways. And I think that you're brave and strong for calling in, for talking about this, for expressing this vulnerable thought that you have, for continuing on, even though you are feeling this sort of negativity, understandably so, surrounding what's going on today. So I don't know. I'm going to throw that compliment right back at you.
Thank you. But, you know, thank you again for your show. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Please keep doing it. I know that it's been a wild ride today. I mean, the first call you had was some guy about his... I'm not going to go into it because it was kind of gross.
Like, yeah, you're telling me. I wish we could have had... I mean, the technological future guy was at least pretty honest. So there was at least one decent theist call in there, but
Yeah.
Thanks, David. I appreciate it. I wish you
you
the
so
best
much,
of luck, and I hope you don't worry too much. I know it's kind of trite to be like, don't worry. Like, yeah, like you haven't tried that before, right? But best of luck. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. You too. Bye for now.
Bye, David.
Bye. Oh, I like David.
Me
Also,
too.
David had such a soothing way of speaking. That was I feel like that was like a really nice chill moment after all of those calls.
Right. Okay, we have one caller left on the line for tonight. We are going to talk to Roger, pronouns are he, him in Brazil, has a question about morality and culture. A lot of background noise.
Hello?
Roger, what's going on?
Oh gosh. Oh god. I've got a fan on. Sorry.
No worries.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Pretty
Hi,
good.
How are you?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Been waiting a while. I'm a long time fan of the show. I've been watching. I think I started with Atheist Experience, and then I've jumped onto the line. But the point is the thing is I was having this debate with my brother yesterday. He likes to come around every once in a while. We play guitars and philosophize and debate, and it's always fun. And we got into the topic of morality, and I'm a big fan of the way I think Matt puts it, that morality is pretty much based around well-being. And I think that's like a perfect way, well, no, sorry, not a perfect way, but as close as possible that we can get to eliminate subjective morality, because it's going to depend on different cultures, it's going to depend on the region, and according to my brother, it also depends on the period, the time, right? So for example, today we consider immoral to own a person as property, like slavery. But then he argues that, well, at that time, it was subjective. People thought other things were wrong and other things were right. And now anyway, I don't know if I'm explaining it, but what's your take on this position that, morality is always subjective because it comes out of the brain of a human, it comes out of a human. So therefore, and I'm like, I agree, we can't have 100% objective morality. That's why I think the closest is when you consider well-being. And what do you think about that?
I have thoughts. You want to go? Go for it.
Go.
Okay. I was going to say, I don't think that appealing to well-being necessarily solves like an objective morality issue. I think it's still a subjective decision that I'm going to, assess moral evaluations according to harm. Although I do think that even people who say that that's not their foundation for morality, it seems to be how they assess moral situations most of the time, except for where maybe like their religion or something might like supersede an evaluation in a specific situation. But like, I think it's still purely subjective because, there are sociopaths who they don't have any feelings about killing people or owning people. And like, I don't know, that's like a completely subjective decision to evaluate moral claims on that basis.
I understand what you mean, but like, can you think of one example where we can take different people from different cultures and different, habits and customs and put them all together in one room, and then you show them slides and you just ask them, hey, is this moral or immoral? And if you show a picture of somebody, and this is in the definition of well-being, and I know it's not completely objective, but I think it's a good tool to use to get as close as possible to objective. So if you show all these people some pictures, like, okay, here's a person getting their arm cut off. Does this act harm their well-being? Yes or no? And this is an agreement that well-being is related to morality.
Well,
so
but I mean, if you're asking people, does this affect their well-being? They might answer one way, but if you ask, is it moral? They might answer a different way, because not everybody's going to use well-being as like their morality.
Okay, but
you want to jump in there?
As I said, these people all agree that morality is based on well-being. Okay.
I did not hear you say that at all. I thought.
Yeah, me either.
Okay, so
I don't think
keeping that in mind. Go ahead.
I'm just confused about the hypothetical. I don't think that everyone does agree on that. I think a lot of people do, and I think that some
Are you
people.
saying if they all did that we don't agree on what impacts somebody's well-being one way or the other? Is that what you're trying to say?
Like I'll show a picture. I don't know. Here's a okay. So a 9-year-old getting raped, is that harm that person's well-being or not? I think everybody in the room is going to say yes, it harms their well-being. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to push back. I mean, like, I think it's wrong. I think it harms their well-being, but I don't think everybody will. I think majority of people will, but I think you will find people who will not find that wrong.
What?
Do you like guess? Well, if you had to guess a percentage of how many people agree, what would you put?
I have no way to know that number.
No idea.
Yeah. So, anyways, to try to maybe wrap it up, the things that happened in the past that today we consider immoral, if we travel back in time in that and go back to that same period, would that be considered moral because everyone thinks it's right? Most people think it's right. Everyone's doing it.
No. Owning people as slaves has been wrong always. We figure things out and we progress and we improve our morals based on when we learn new information, and as we progress as society, as we make better agreements on what is moral or immoral, what harms people's well-being.
So even back in those days, those slavery days, if we could go back with our culture now, right, the way we think now, and we step in a time machine, we go back to that period and we do a survey. Do you think a lot of people are going to say that, yeah, slavery is moral, it's fine, it's okay?
I don't know what people
I don't
would
know what
say.
you're asking. Are you asking if people from that time would say that it's immoral? I have no idea.
Yes.
I have no idea. How would I know what they're going to say? I hope, well, I don't know. Who knows? People that were owning other people, I think a lot of them justified that to themselves and were like, oh, this is totally fine, which is what's really fucked up about it. So I don't know. I don't know why we care.
Yeah, there have been people who have been slavery abolitionists since the times where slavery was normalized, but not everyone agreed on that. Like, I'm a little bit confused at what you're trying to ask. Like, I couldn't speculate. If you want me to speculate on what percentage of people in the past would have been okay with slavery, I won't do that because I don't know. I have no idea. Are you still there, Roger? Looks like you're still on the line, but I don't hear you. Oh, there you go. Now I hear you.
Oh, sorry, my phone shut down. Okay, so I guess what I'm claiming is this, right? I think that well-being is not flexible and it's not malleable. It doesn't change over time. I think well-being is the same. Well-being, the definition of well-being, does not change over time, right? That's what I'm claiming. And if we agree that morality can be loosely defined as well-being, right? If you get me, then I think that morality is also not flexible or malleable over time.
But I don't agree with that well-being is the same as morality. Like,
If we were to agree, this is a hypothetical.
definer.
If we were to agree, sorry to interrupt you, but if we all were to agree that that is the case, okay, the well-being is highly tied with morality. If we all agreed on that, then is morality flexible and changeable over time? Does well-being change? Like would something that harms me now?
The problem is your question doesn't really make sense. If we all agreed that morality was the same as well-being, would morality change over time? Like, it's kind of a nonsensical question. I don't even really know how to answer it. Like, I would say that from this position, with me, who evaluates moral claims based on well-being, I can evaluate that I would hold the same standards of people in the ancient past as I do people now for like moral acts. But like, I don't really know what else you're asking. It doesn't really make sense.
No, I guess I was just asking if you agreed with the claim because, like, I just don't agree. If we all think that something is immoral now, it's also immoral back then. You know, that's how I look at it. But he was arguing that no, back then we could not call it immoral because morality changes.
I think what you're trying to say is if we all agree that something is harmful to people now, that that it has always been harmful to people. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, for example,
Right now, I agree with that. Sure.
Yeah,
okay.
I feel like I thought we addressed that, but then I thought you were like, no, and then you gave a hypothetical that confused me. So I guess I'm a little lost, but
I got confused because I'm sorry, I forgot her name. It's
Arden.
Eve was framed. Yes. Eve was framed. She mentioned how it does evolve. You know, with times people learn new information, and we have different. You know, our opinions on morality change. But what I'm saying is that well-being doesn't change. The idea of what harms and what doesn't harm, that has never changed. Never in history. That's what I'm saying. And if we tie morality with well-being, if we couple those and we all agree on that definition, then morality also doesn't change. It's always been either moral or immoral.
Right. Sorry, go on, Eve.
I just don't think that well-being is a good definition for morality. I think the aim is for well-being. If that's what we're trying to say, but even then, there's still so much subjectivity attached.
Right, and when Eve said that about people evolving, that was in response to you asking us if we polled people in the distant past their positions about morality, would they agree that certain acts are immoral? So, like, yeah, she wasn't saying that morality changed. It was a response to the thing you were asking about polling people in the past, like that.
Right. I see. Well, I guess that's it. Thanks so much for taking my call.
Okay. Thanks for calling in, Roger.
Thanks, Roger.
Yeah, keep up the good work. Keep fighting.
Will do.
You.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I think the problem is, I think our agreements on what morals are have changed and evolved, which is what I was saying. But sure, well-being, like if something's harming, if something is measurably harmful to society, then sure, that has to be a consistent definition. Kind of, but also then there's new problems. Like now we're having to navigate the whole world of morality when it comes to technology, and that wasn't even a thing that we had to think about then. It didn't even exist. So I don't know. There's just, to me, there's so much subjectivity to all of it.
Yeah, and I think even if you like got a person, you know, from like biblical days, when the person who owns a slave to agree harm is the foundation of morality, like would they agree that what they're doing is harmful? Like I don't know. There's a level of like the desire to make morality objective. I think is, or like even approximating. He said like as close as we could possibly get. Just seems like flawed to me.
Yeah.
All right, but that has been the end of our show. Thanks, Eve, for being here with me, for wading through the first, like, I had fun too, despite the insane first, like, 5 callers we had.
Yeah, that was wild. I hope we can do this again soon together. Well, now that I'm about to leave, but I'm going to hopefully get on the Wi-Fi connection while I'm overseas, and then we can get back to this and maybe have some honest theists call us.
Yeah, I would really like that.
Engage. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And then not have a bigoted comment at the end that I guess all of that was just to get to this one bizarre point. I don't know. That was infuriating.
Yeah, and just like flexing like, oh, you don't have a school of philosophical thought that you identify with? Loser. Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys so much for watching the show. We appreciate all your support. We will be back. I already did announcements. I'm not going to do them again. You guys can fucking go to the channel, set your notifications for all the stuff coming on. Go watch Chewed Gum. Come watch TACIS. If you want to talk about trans issues, please stop calling in all the other shows. I think the hosts are sick of it. So see you guys later. Have a nice night. Ooh, where's that scroll? Why are the names not going? What's happening? I don't understand. All right, well, sorry to the patrons. See you all later. Bye.